Chapter 2829 Horny Bees Online. All page, Novel Bin. 2829 Chapter 2829 Horny Bees. When the maid with triangular eyes arrived at the gate of the temple of the priest, the guard did not stop her. She walked straight in. San Jiaoyan was the first to enter. Not long after she entered, a few spirit butterflies and spirit bees flew into the courtyard of the temple of the priest. At at. A guard at the gate said, "Usually, there are no spirit butterflies and spirit bees. Why did I see so many of them flying into the courtyard today?" The other guard curled his lips. "That Hong Mei is Chief Li's lover. She must have been wearing some kind of perfume. That's why all these bees and butterflies are here. Speaking of which, recently, that Hong Mei was sent to serve the heavenly daughter. Chief Li must have been hungry and thirsty for a long time. Ha ha." A certain Jew on the other side heard the foul language of the two people through her spiritual sense. She was so disgusted that she almost vomited. However, her heart skipped a beat. She could roughly guess why the maid with triangular eyes had seen cotton and silk before, but not San Jiaoyan. It was probably because the so-called boss Li had given her cotton and silk clothes in order to curry favor with her. This meant that the boss Li was either an outsider or had left Chessboard Island. At this moment, the voice of a spirit bee was transmitted through her spiritual sense. "Greetings, Lord Priest." The maid with San Jiaoyan bowed respectfully. "What did the heavenly daughter do today? Did she show any signs of escaping?" The priest's voice was different from the pious one in front of Yun Chujiu. It was filled with coldness. The heavenly daughter was admiring the flowers in the back garden this morning. She picked a lot of flowers and brought them back to the house. She wanted to catch some spirit butterflies on a whim. However, she was not satisfied after catching a few, so she gave up, the maid with San Jiaoyan said with slight disdain. "HMPH. She's just a little girl. Keep an eye on her. After the coronation ceremony is over, I'll directly host the sacrificial ceremony and kill her to worship the sea god." "Yes, Lord Priest, what about the other two men?" "HMPH. Didn't that smelly girl say that they were her two husbands? Then kill the sea god along with her. You should go back first, in case anything goes wrong." "Yes." Yun Chujiu raised her eyebrows. "Kill her to worship the sea god. He. This guy was afraid that the spirit bees and spirit butterflies would be suspicious if they stayed in the priest temple for too long, so he ordered them to retreat. He also sent one of the spirit bees to continue to follow the triangular-eyed maid. San Jiaoyan didn't go back to the priest temple directly. The triangular-eyed maid didn't go back to the fairy palace directly after she left the priest temple. Instead, she made a few turns and arrived at the entrance of a courtyard. Soon, a man called out to San Jiaoyan and brought her into the house. The spirit bee was very smart. It crawled through the door and began to broadcast something indescribable to San Jiaoyan. A certain Jew's heart was like 10,000 divine beasts whizzing past her as she listened to the vivid description of the spirit bee. Damn it, this spirit bee was actually a lecherous bee. Finally, the live broadcast of the sex was over, and she heard San Jiaoyan's maid say sweetly, "Enemy, have you missed me these past few days?" "Baby, I've missed you to death. If it wasn't for the high priestess orders, how could I bear for you to serve others?" Did the high priestess say how to deal with that heavenly girl? Although that little girl's spiritual power is a little low, she's quite pretty. Otherwise, those lowly people wouldn't really think that she's a heavenly girl. "You damned ghost. Don't tell me you are thinking about that little girl. Let me tell you, if you dare to let me down, I will tell the priest that you embezzled the spirit ore," San Jiaoyan's maid said in a sharp voice. Chapter 2830 could only be outwitted online. All page, Novel Bin. 2830 Chapter 2830 could only be outwitted. Baby, what are you saying? I'm just saying, how can a little girl like her be as strong as you? Besides, why did I hide those spirit ores? Isn't it so that we can live comfortably when we're together in the future? Exclamation mark quote. HMPH. You have such a good mouth. Other than some tattered clothes, you've never given me anything valuable. Moreover, our chessboard island is hundreds of thousands of miles away from land. It's as difficult as climbing the heavens to escape. If the high priestess finds out, she will definitely kill us. Besides, you can be considered as one person under 10,000 people. Why do you have to escape? San Zhaoyan's maid said worriedly. What do you know? Nowadays, the spiritual stone mines at the bottom of the sea are becoming more and more difficult to mine. Almost half of those young and strong men have died. I reckon that in the end, the remaining old, young, women, and children will have to go down to mine. When they are all dead, we guards will also have to go down to mine the spiritual stone mines. When that time comes, how will we survive? Let me tell you the truth. In the end, only the high priestess can survive here. The rest of the people will die sooner or later. The maid with triangular eyes asked in disbelief, This can't be right. Why would the high priestess do this? If we slow down the mining speed, won't the casualties of the islanders be reduced? I'm not too sure about the specifics. Anyway, I think the high priestess wants to end this quickly. She has been planning for so many years, isn't it all for that spiritual stone mine? All right, let's not talk about these troublesome things. Come, let's get closer. Yun Chujiu frowned. The conversation between the two of them contained a lot of information. It seemed that this Boss Lee and the high priestess were not from Chessboard Island. They had been planning for many years, all for the spiritual stone mine at the bottom of the sea. At Novelban. Then the problem came. Their spiritual power was obviously higher than the islanders. They could just take it by force. Why did they have to plan this for so many years before taking action? Yun Chujiu shook her head. Forget it. Let's think of a way to escape the sacrifice tomorrow. A life sacrifice. So the reason why she was trapped was to use her to sacrifice the so-called sea god. What the hell? It was a pity that he couldn't use talismans here, or else he would be blasted to death. It seemed that he couldn't fight head-on, so he could only use his wits. This guy cupped his chin and thought for a while, then snapped his fingers. That was what he was going to do. This guy smiled sinisterly. Little fellow, not only did she want to escape to heaven, but the spiritual stone mine at the bottom of the sea would also be hers sooner or later. There was no other way. This was all the fault of that old priest. Tomorrow, he would have a taste of what it meant to lead a wolf into the house. What it meant to steal a chicken and end up eating rice. What it meant to throw a stone at your own feet. What it meant to lose a wife and lose a soldier. The little black bird in the spiritual beast bag had no strength to complain. This black-hearted master was becoming more and more willing to talk big. Yun Chujiu did not tell An Linchuan and Shangguan Hao about the situation that she had overheard, because if she told them, it would not be good if they were to be exposed. The next morning, Yun Chujiu woke up early in the morning and was served with a bath and a change of clothes. The clothes she was wearing were the so-called heavens-made attire, and there was a phoenix jade hairpin in her hair. A certain Jew looked at herself in the mirror and felt very satisfied. Shangguan Hao and An Linchuan also changed into the so-called husband-in-law's clothes. The two of them were very handsome, which made the maids look at them shyly. Little, Your Highness, you look really good in this way. An Linchuan swallowed back the question that almost came out of his mouth. Chapter 2831, The Clear Sign of the Heavens Online, All page, Novel bin. 2831 Chapter 2831, The Clear Sign of the Heavens. Of course, this is what I call being born beautiful and unable to give up. I was born with a beauty that could topple countries and cities, but after dressing up like this, even I was mesmerized to death. How could I be so good looking? Sigh. Being beautiful is actually a burden, a certain Jew said helplessly. And Linchuan and Shangguan Hao were speechless. As they understood more, they finally understood that the biggest advantage and biggest weakness of this fellow in front of them was that he was, well, shameless. A hint of jealousy flashed across the triangular-eyed maid's eyes. She thought sinisterly that this B*TCH would be sacrificed to the sea god very soon. No matter how beautiful she was, she would not be able to live. The coronation ceremony was not held in the Palace of Heavenly Maidens. Instead, it was arranged to be held on the beach on the island where Yun Chujiu and the others were found. And Linchuan and Shangguan Hao did not understand what was going on, but Yun Chujiu knew. She planned to kill Yun Chujiu and sacrifice her to the sea god after the coronation ceremony. In her dreams, a high platform had been built on the beach, and there were stairs leading to the top. There was a chair inlaid with seashells on the high platform. It was probably the throne of the so-called Heavenly Lady. Soon, many islanders gathered on the beach, and there were also some young adults. The faces of those young adults were very pale, the kind of pale that couldn't see the sunlight all year round. Yun Chujiu thought to herself that these should be the labor of the young men who were mining. It seemed that the priest was going to make a big fuss out of her. The priest had also changed into a set of clothes today. He was wearing a black robe and a mask that looked like an evil spirit. Yun Chujiu secretly pursed her lips. She made it look like a real thing, but the mask matched him very well. Wasn't it an evil spirit? When it was time, the priest announced the start of the coronation ceremony. Yun Chujiu was like a marionette. She followed the procedure that the priest had told her. Finally, after the priest read out a long and complicated sentence, she slowly ascended the throne. Everyone, including the priest, knelt on the ground. Greetings, Your Highness. Your Highness is blessed by the heavens and lives with the sea. Yun Chujiu sneered in her heart. Wasn't it living with the sea? She was going to be killed and fed to the bastard soon. Daddy, I won't eat it, the little bastard retorted. It meant that it wouldn't eat Yun Chujiu. Yun Chujiu scolded it. Go to the side. Also, I'm not your daddy. Call me daddy again in the future, and I'll rip off your bastard shell. The little bastard felt wronged and didn't say anything. It really couldn't understand. When it had just broken out of its shell, it had felt a warm and beautiful father, but why did it become so fierce now? After Yun Chujiu finished off the little bastard in her spiritual sense, she looked at the people kneeling on the ground. At Novelban at. She said indifferently with a pretentious look, rise. Get up. Just as the priest was about to proceed with the next step, which was to offer the so-called sacrifice to the sea god, he saw Yun Chujiu stand up. Then, she said, everyone, you are all my subjects. In my dream last night, I received a clear indication from the heavens that many of you are digging spirit stone mines at the bottom of the sea. Am I right? Boom. Everyone immediately exploded. Everyone whispered to each other, saying that the fairy was indeed a fairy. She even knew about the matter of the spirit stone mines at the bottom of the sea. The high priest had given a death order that no one was allowed to talk about the undersea spiritual stone mine. How did the fairy find out about it? It seemed like the heavens had made it clear. Chapter 2832 was cut off online. All page, Novel Bin. 2832 Chapter 2832 was cut off. The priest was stunned. Just as he was about to change the topic, he heard Yun Chujiu continue. The heavens clearly said that many islanders lost their lives because of the exploitation of the spiritual stone mine. Therefore, the person who decided to exploit the spiritual stone mine was a sinner. Only by killing him can the sea god calm down his anger. Otherwise, the sea god will send its messenger to destroy the chessboard island. The people below immediately exploded again. It was the high priest who decided to mine the spirit stone mine. Could he be a sinner? It was because of the spirit stone mine that my 2 sons died. If we don't kill the high priest, will the sea god really be angry? The high priest was so angry that he almost vomited blood. This damn brat. He was the one who wanted to say all these things, okay. He originally wanted to say that he wanted to sacrifice the goddess to the sea god so that fewer people would die in the spirit stone mine. He didn't expect that he would be robbed by this brat. It was really detestable. The priest's forehead under the mask was already covered in sweat. What should he do? If he let this damned brat continue to make noise, perhaps these islanders would really erupt. He had to end this quickly. At ad novelben at. Thus, the priest coughed a few times. He had a deep reputation on Chessboard Island, so the islanders immediately kept quiet and didn't dare to speak anymore. The priest instantly felt confident. These lowly people had already been tamed by him. That wretched girl wanted to use a few words to make them rise up and resist. In her dreams. Men. The reason why Her Highness the Fairy spoke nonsense was because the devil had entered her body. Immediately kill it and worship it to the sea god. This way, our spirit mining would be smoother. As long as we finish mining the spiritual mine, we will be able to avoid the fate of our chessboard island sinking to the bottom of the sea. The priest did not care whether there was a loophole in his words. In any case, he firmly believed that the islanders would not dare to resist. Following the order of the priest, some guards surrounded the high platform and were ready to go up the steps to catch Yun Chujiu. Shangguan Hao and Linchuan had accompanied Yun Chujiu to the high platform. The two of them looked at each other and stood at the entrance of the steps. The two of them were ready to fight. One of them would kill the other. They could not just accept their fate. Compared to them, a certain Jew was as calm as the wind. She laughed lightly. The devil has entered my body. Since I have already been possessed by the devil, why would the sea god like me? Since the priest is so popular with the gods, why don't we kill you and feed you to the bastard in the sea? The little bastard in the spirit beast pouch grumbled with disdain, I don't want to eat you. Ugly. Yun Chujiu couldn't be bothered with this idiot who was obsessed with looks. She stared coldly at the priestess. The priestess was frightened by Yun Chujiu's cold gaze and took a step back. However, she quickly calmed down. She was just a little girl at the 6th layer of the spiritual profound realm. It was just a bluff. Nonsense. What are you still standing there for? Go. Capture her for me. The priest felt a little uneasy. He felt that it was better to kill this little girl as soon as possible. If you dare to come up, I will let you die without a burial place. First husband, second husband, use our secret weapon. Yun Chujiu shouted. And Linchuan and Shangguan Hao's eyes twitched, but they still put on the gas masks and began to throw large sacks down the stage. The sacks were naturally filled with chili noodles. The guards were choked with tears and tears. How could they still have the time to climb up the stage? Although the priest was wearing a mask, he was also choking and coughing. However, the islanders were standing far away, so there was no harm. Chapter 2833, The Emissary of the Sea God Online, All Page, Novel Bin. 2833 Chapter 2833, The Emissary of the Sea God. Yun Chujiu said loudly, My people, haven't you awakened yet? This so-called priest is just a liar. He is drinking your blood and eating your flesh. Are you going to watch your relatives enter the seabed to mine again? Even if we don't mine for spiritual stones, Chessboard Island will really sink to the bottom of the sea. What is more important than the safety of your relatives? Besides, look at what you're wearing, what you're eating, what that so-called priest and his men are wearing, what they're eating. Are you willing to accept this? The islanders' faces were filled with grief and indignation, especially those miners. They had been living in human lives for a long time and had had enough of it. However, even so, under the constant oppression, they were still somewhat hesitant, especially the priest who was coughing and threatening, "If any of you dare to disobey my orders, you will be punished by the sea god." When the islanders heard this, they immediately retreated, and their faces revealed a look of resignation. Yun Chujiu shook her head in her heart. No wonder the Chessboard Island was firmly controlled by this priest. These islanders were really, how should I put it? They lamented their misfortune and were angry but did not fight for it. It seemed that they had to use some strong medicine. Therefore, Yun Chujiu raised her voice again. "My people, the sea god is already angry. If we don't kill the priest and his subordinates, the sea god's emissaries will rush to the island and destroy the Chessboard Island." The priest was choked by Chili's tears and tears. He didn't have time to act mysterious anymore. He regretted it. If he had known this would happen, he would have built the high platform lower. But now, it was forbidden to fly here. If he wanted to go up, he had to go up the stairs. He could only climb up the ladder. The priest shouted in exasperation, "Emissaries of the sea god. What a joke. I have never heard of an emissary of the sea god. You are talking nonsense. Men, set fire. Burn this brat to death. Just because you don't know it doesn't mean there isn't one. The sea beasts in the sea are the envoys of the sea god. Look, they're here." Yun Chujiu stood on the high platform, her clothes fluttering in the sea breeze. She looked just like the fairy of the 9 heavens. Everyone followed the direction of her finger and saw countless black spots swimming towards the shore. They could faintly hear the roars of various sea beasts. The islanders immediately exclaimed, "Oh my god! It's really the envoy of the sea god. At Novelbanat. This is the first time I've seen so many sea beasts. What should we do? The sea god won't really destroy our Chessboard Island, right? Looks like what Her Highness said is true. The priestess has been lying to us." The little boy who was in the orchard earlier shouted, "Uncles, what are you waiting for? Didn't the fairy princess say that only by killing the priest and his men can we protect the Chessboard Island? I don't want to never see my father again." Sob. The little boy's words were the final trigger. When the islanders thought of their family members who had lost their lives and the days they had been oppressed, they were so angry that they overcame their long-standing fear and rushed toward the priest and his men. Yun Chujiu had previously thought that the little boy was clever, but now that she looked at him, her future was simply limitless. Yun Chujiu did not have time to think too much. She quickly brought in Linchuan and joined in the battle. Of course, this guy had already told Guaikao to stop summoning. Otherwise, if the sea beasts really charged up, it would be self-defeating. Chapter 2834, Da Hua Online, All Page, Novel Bin. 2834 Chapter 2834, Da Hua. To catch a thief, one must first catch the leader. Yun Chujiu first rushed towards the priest. "Old thing. You want to set me up. In your dreams," Yun Chujiu said as she shot out several bolts of lightning towards the old man. Heavenly Thunder Spirit Root. You are Yun Chujiu. Why are you in the sea of setting sun?" the old man said in shock. Yun Chujiu was shocked. Oh my god, was she already so famous? Even people who were far away on the Sunset Island knew of her famous name. However, this guy rolled his eyes and understood a little. He sneered, So you are the lackey of the divine devil hall. No wonder you would do such an inhumane thing. Humph. Stupid girl, don't be so proud. Do you think these motley people can win? I didn't kill them before because I wanted to keep them for mining. As for you, you are just here to help me show my loyalty to my master. As the priest spoke, he formed a seal with his hands and a huge spiritual energy python pounced towards Yun Chujiu. Beside the huge spiritual energy python, there were two smaller spiritual energy venomous snakes that also pounced towards Yun Chujiu. Yo, not bad. You actually have two support beasts, that's pretty impressive. However, I have 20 support spiritual beasts, I'll scare you to death. As Yun Chujiu spoke, she released a group of spiritual energy piglets. Not only that, this fellow even brought out Xiao Mogu, Xiao Hong, and Xiao Hei. She said smugly, let's see if your spiritual power beast is stronger or my dumb Meng is stronger. Go and kill him. The reason why this bastard did not release Xiao Hainiao was because it was forbidden to fly here. Even the spiritual butterflies and spiritual bees could only fly up to a height of 10 feet from the ground. As for the cat cub, it was too weak. Unless it was absolutely necessary, Yun Chujiu would not release it. Not to mention the handsome bastard, he would be beaten up if he was released. Xiao Hong howled and the priestess could not help but be absent-minded for a moment. As this place was filled with sand, Xiao Mogu and Xiao Hei were like fish in water. Taking advantage of the moment when the priestess was absent-minded, Xiao Mogu buried its body in the sand and the mycelium firmly wrapped around the priestess's waist. Xiao Hei dug a big hole under the priest's feet and dragged one of his feet inside. Hei Xinjiu naturally would not let go of this once-in-a-lifetime opportunity. As the spiritual piglet was dealing with the priest's spiritual beasts, she fired several spiritual needles at the priest. The priest wanted to dodge, but his waist and right foot were controlled, so he had to use his spiritual energy shield to block Yun Chujiu's spiritual needles. The purple needles exploded one after another, but because the priest had the spiritual energy shield to block them, there was no damage. The priest also cut off the mycelium of Xiao Mogu and got rid of Xiao Hei's rat claws. Stupid girl, I didn't expect you to have some ability. However, these are just small tricks, give up your life. The priest said and fired his spiritual beast at Yun Chujiu again. The two sides exchanged blows, and they were in a stalemate. Yun Chujiu squinted her eyes. Damn it, if only she could use the talisman, why would she need to go through so much trouble? At this moment, Yun Chujiu's piglets of spiritual power faded, and the purple piglets that she hadn't seen for a long time appeared. Because the purple piglets had a disagreement with the name of a certain Jew, they rarely came out. Yun Chujiu hadn't seen this fellow for a long time, and she didn't know if this fellow had improved as her spiritual power increased. At Novelbanat. Da Hua. Attack. Master, I'm counting on you today. Yun Chujiu shouted excitedly. Chapter 2835. The Awesome Da Hua, Asking for Votes, Online. All page. Novel bin. 2835 Chapter 2835. The Awesome Da Hua, Asking for Votes. The purple piglet's body trembled. It knew it. It knew it. This black-hearted master did not forget this weird name. If it was not really suffocating, it would not have come out. HMPH. It was clearly purple, why did it have to call it Da Hua, such a vulgar name with no class? Da Hua, don't dawdle, hurry up. Otherwise, Master will change your name to Big Fatty. Yun Chujiu shouted as she dodged the priest's spiritual beast's attack. The purple piglet's body trembled again. Alright, Da Hua it is. It's better than Big Fatty. I'll let you scum see how powerful Da Hua Grandpa is. Hey, why is it so awkward? Da Hua pig. Just you wait. We're not done yet. Next, everyone was stunned by the changes of the purple pig. The purple pig, which was originally only a foot long, grew bigger and bigger, bigger and bigger. Yoon Choo-jiu looked at the huge pig in front of her with a confused expression. Was this a pig bought as a pet pig and raised to be a big fat pig in the end? No, this could no longer be called a pig. Have you ever seen a pig that was as big as 3 houses? Yoon Choo-jiu felt that the name, Big Fat, seemed to be more suitable for this fellow in front of her. The priest was so frightened that he took a few steps back. His spiritual beast was even more cowardly and immediately dissipated. Yes, it dissipated. Yoon Choo-jiu, this fellow, was stunned for a moment before she laughed out loud. Come, don't you have a spiritual beast and a support beast? Release them all. Let me tell you, those 3 pieces of junk of yours are not enough to fill the gaps between my Dahua's teeth. The priest gritted his teeth and released the spiritual python again. However, this so-called spiritual python seemed like a small loach in front of Dahua, and it was still a small loach. Dahua stepped on the spirit energy python with 1 step. As for the 2 poisonous snakes, they were dispersed by Dahua's tail. Yoon Choo-jiu was so happy that she could not close her mouth. What did it mean to exhale? What did it mean to amaze the world with a single feat? She was, who would have thought that Dahua, who had not shown her face all this while, had become so powerful? She was simply her great treasure. The face underneath the priest's mask was as pale as paper. How did this Yoon Choo-jiu have such a powerful spiritual beast? It was over. At Novelbanat. He was simply regretting it. Back then, in order to fool the people of Chessboard Island, he made up the so-called fairy's prophecy. At that time, he just casually said that there would be a young girl coming out of a huge turtle shell in the future. That was the fairy of Chessboard Island. Heaven and earth, he felt that how could a person come out of a turtle shell? This was definitely something that would not happen, so it was used to fool these islanders. Who would have thought? God damn it. 2 days ago, a guard hurriedly came to report, Lord Priest, there are islanders who went out to fish, reporting that there is a huge turtle shell floating over from afar. They said that it is very likely that the fairy has returned. At that time, the priest's heart was like a dog that was bawling. However, he thought that it might just be an empty turtle shell. How could it be so coincidental that a woman would come out from it? This was impossible. However, a young woman had really come out from it. Moreover, she was extremely beautiful. Even if he did not admit that she was the goddess, the islanders would not believe it. When the priest thought of this, he was filled with regret. He gritted his teeth and asked, Yoon Choo-jiu, why are you in the turtle shell? Why did you float here?
Amazing! Nice!
Chapter 2836 online. All page, novel bin. There's no such thing as, why? Dahua, attack. Kill this old bastard. Yoon Choo-jiu used her spiritual power needle to attack the priest as she ordered the purple piglet. Yes, the giant purple pig. Dahua raised his front leg to step on the priest. The priest quickly dodged. He felt that since the situation was hopeless, it was better to save his life first. Just as the priest was about to use a secret technique to escape, he noticed that the purple giant pig's body began to fade and then disappeared. The priest's heart moved. Yes, the purple giant pig was only a spiritual beast. It would disappear after a certain amount of time. Moreover, The purple giant pig consumed a lot of spiritual power. He did not believe that the smelly girl could have so much spiritual power to support the purple giant pig. When the priest thought of this, hope suddenly rose in his heart. Little girl, although your spiritual beast is abnormal, your spiritual power is not enough to support it for too long. Prepare to die. As the priest spoke, he shot another spiritual python and 2 poisonous spiritual snakes at Yun Chujiu. Yun Chujiu pursed her lips. She did not have enough spiritual power. Damn it, let me see if my spiritual power is enough now. This guy released 20 piglets with spiritual power again. He cursed in his heart. This purple piglet was good in every way except for one thing. He could only come out when the spiritual power of these piglets was about to dissipate. You are just a spiritual beast, why are you still putting on airs? You really deserve a beating. The priest did not know the characteristics of the purple piglet. He thought that Yun Chujiu could not support the purple piglet anymore, and his face immediately showed joy. Stupid girl. I was right, right. How can a trash of the 6th level of the spiritual profound realm support? The priest's words came to an abrupt end, because at that moment, the spirit energy piglet's figure faded, and Da Hua appeared out of nowhere again. The priest's 3 spirit energy beasts were immediately scared to the point of dissipating, yes, dissipating. The priest's face instantly turned pale. This stupid girl was indeed abnormal. No wonder she had repeatedly ruined the major events in the Divine Devil Hall. Now it seemed that there was no chance of victory, and it was more important to save his life. Therefore, the priest dodged Da Hua's attack while asking his subordinates to protect him. Although Yun Chujiu sensed that the priest wanted to use a secret technique to escape, the priest used his spiritual power to support himself. Moreover, he had his subordinates to protect him. He could only watch as the priest used the secret technique of the resurrection lily and disappeared on the spot. Yun Chujiu was furious. This secret technique of the resurrection lily was really difficult to deal with. It was equivalent to using a cheat. Unless he could break his spiritual power shield in a short period of time, once he used the secret technique, he could only watch as he escaped. As soon as the priest escaped, his subordinates were like headless flies. Moreover, it was very obvious that other than the priest, the others did not know the secret technique of the resurrection lily. Very soon, those who were dead or injured, and those who were alive were all captured. Those islanders simply could not believe that they had really defeated the priest. They were free. The beach was filled with cheers. Then, everyone knelt down and thanked the goddess. Yun Chujiu waved her hand and asked someone to bring Chief Li over. She did not waste time interrogating him and used the soul-searching spell on him. Just like the previous times, Yun Chujiu did not get much useful information. She only knew that the priest had brought this person to the nearby chessboard island a few years ago. First, he secretly poisoned the water source on the island. Then, he appeared as a saint who saved the suffering. He falsely claimed that the islanders were cursed by the sea god. The islanders were isolated from the world all year round. How could they withstand his lies? Therefore, under the priest's trickery, they believed him. Then, the islanders found a beautifully made jade box on the beach, at Novelbanatat. Chapter 2837 Online. All page, Novel Bin. There were 3 prophecies in the jade box. The first prophecy was that the chessboard island would welcome an angel's emissary. The person described was naturally the same as the priest, at Novelbanatat. The second prophecy was that there was a huge spirit stone mine buried under the chessboard island. If the spirit stone mine was not completely mined, the chessboard island would forever sink to the bottom of the sea. The third prophecy was that one day, when the spirit stone mine was difficult to mine, the angel would walk out of the turtle shell and give them a helping hand. Of course, If the priest knew that one day, there would really be a pervert coming out of the turtle shell, he would never make up the third prophecy. The priest said that the 3 prophecies in the jade box were a warning from the sea god to the islanders. He kept on playing tricks, and then the islanders were fooled. Firstly, the priest's tricks had convinced them. Secondly, only their ancestors knew that there was a spiritual stone mine under the chessboard island, which meant that the prophecy in the jade box was true. Therefore, several clan leaders of the chessboard island joined forces to open the spiritual stone mine's enchantment. This was also the reason why the priest didn't take things by force but worked slowly. Without the cooperation of the islanders, there was no way for him to find the spiritual stone mine. After the spiritual stone mine appeared, the priest began to cultivate his own power bit by bit. There were good and bad people among the islanders. Naturally, there would be people who would risk their lives for benefits. Thus, the priest's power grew stronger and stronger. When the islanders realized that something was wrong, they had no way to resist the priest. Moreover, the long period of submissiveness made them lose the courage to resist. It was only until Yun Chujiu's arrival that they were finally saved. Yun Chujiu also received a shocking piece of news from Chief Li's soul. If the spirit stone mine was completely mined, then Chessboard Island would completely sink. This was because the Chessboard Island itself was a huge array formation that existed to hide the spiritual stone mine. Once the spiritual stone mine was completely mined, then the Chessboard Island would no longer have any value and would forever sink to the bottom of the sea. No wonder Chief Li and the maid with the triangular eyes said that only the priest would be able to leave safely in the future. If Chessboard Island sank, the priest would naturally not care about the lives of the islanders. Moreover, in order to keep it a secret, he would kill everyone to silence them. Yun Chujiu briefly explained the matter to the few clan leaders of the Chessboard Island. Then, she said, "You guys can decide where you want to go. However, since the Divine Devil Hall has their eyes on your Chessboard Island, I'm afraid they won't let it go so easily. They will send someone over." As the matter was of great importance, the few clan leaders couldn't make a decision right away. Therefore, they tried their best to invite Yun Chujiu to stay for a few more days to help them plan. Yun Chujiu decided to be a good person to the end. She promised to give the islanders 2 days to consider. Of course, this fellow also had his own little juju. There was such a big spiritual stone mine at the bottom of the sea. She couldn't let her help for nothing, right? She felt that there was a high chance that the people of Chessboard Island would choose to leave. When the time came, they would definitely ask for help from her. At that time, she could take the opportunity to make a fortune. Sure enough, 2 days later, a few clan leaders came to Yun Chujiu and told her their final decision. Although it was difficult to leave their homeland, they still decided to leave Chessboard Island for the sake of their lives. Then the problem came. Firstly, they didn't have enough ships. Secondly, they didn't know how to reach the coast, and they didn't know anything about life on land. Therefore, they could only turn to Yun Chujiu. Yun Chujiu sighed. "Elders, to be honest, of course, I am very willing to help you. However, I have a problem. My brain is not working properly. Generally speaking, it will only work when I see a lot of spirit stones." Chapter 2838 Online. All page, Novel Bin. And Lin Chuan almost spat out the tea in his mouth. Can you be any more shameless? What's the difference between this and an open robbery? The few clan leaders were also dumbfounded. Could it be that they had just chased away a wolf and welcomed another tiger? Elders, please don't misunderstand. I'm different from that priest bastard. He's just taking advantage of others. This is a fair trade. You can choose whether you want to buy or not. If you feel that you don't need me, then I'll leave right now. I definitely won't say anything else. Yun Chujiu said with a smile. Although the few clan leaders felt a little uncomfortable in their hearts, but after thinking about it, it made sense. What right did he have to help them for no reason? Moreover, he had already saved them once, so it was only right for him to pay a little reward. Your Highness, how many spirit stones do you want? A clan leader asked. Although Yun Chujiu said that she was not a goddess, the islanders still did not change their words. Yun Chujiu rubbed her hands. I can't estimate the exact amount. How about this? I'll help you guys mine all the spirit stones, and then we'll split it 50-50, 50-50 for each family. There were two reasons for leaving after mining the spirit stones. One was that once the spirit stones were completely mined, Chessboard Island would sink. In that case, even if the Divine Devil Hall sent people over again, they might not be able to find it. Also, if we split the spirit stones from the spirit stones, you guys will have the capital to settle down on land, at Novelbanatat. The few clan leaders looked at each other and thought to themselves, this little girl is really greedy. She actually wants half. Your Highness, isn't this half a bit too much? Moreover, because talismans cannot be used here, the mining speed is very slow. If we want to completely mine the spirit stone mine, it will be difficult to complete it without several decades. Half a bit too much. I didn't take this half for free. I want to spend money to hire labor to help mine the spiritual stone mine. Why don't you guys share 30% with me? You guys think of a way to mine the spiritual stone mine in half a month. Yun Chujiu crossed her legs and looked like she did whatever she wanted. The few clan leaders looked at this scoundrel and were dumbfounded. However, after thinking about it, they really couldn't mine the spiritual stone mine in half a month. But this little girl, did she have a way? Did she want to spend money to hire labor? Where could she hire labor? The few clan leaders raised their questions. Yun Chujiu curled her lips and said, you don't have to worry about this. I have my own way. If you agree, we will sign the contract and have a restriction on both of us. As for your future days, I suggest that you stay far away from the Sunset Sea and find an island by another sea to settle down. Then, you can live on land bit by bit. It's just a business. Anyway, you don't lack spirit stones. You can just start fishing at the beginning. When you get used to the land, you can buy land and land. As for how to get to the land, I'll be in charge. You can let the islanders pack their bags now. When the spirit stone mine is finished, we'll leave here. Seeing that Yun Chujiu's words were reasonable, the clan leaders decided to sign a contract with her even though they felt that the labor issue was a bit unreliable. After all, they had no one else to rely on. After the few clan leaders left, and Lin Chuan came up to her. Junior sister Little Jew, where are you going to find labor? Are you trying to trick those old men? Chapter 2839 Online. All page, Novel Bin. Yun Chujiu glanced at An Lin Chuan. It's already signed in black and white. How can it be a bluff? Let's go look for labor now. Really, where can we find it? There are no other islands besides Chessboard Island. Where can we find labor? And Lin Chuan's face was full of curiosity and confusion. We'll know when we get there. Let's go. And Lin Chuan and Shangguan Hao saw that Yun Chujiu was deliberately keeping them guessing. Although they were very curious, they had no choice but to follow her out of the fairy palace. Although the islanders would not kneel down in front of Yun Chujiu, they all stopped and saluted to show their respect. At Novelbanatat. TSK, senior brother Shangguan, when did I get such treatment in the Hunyuan sect and the murderous Yuan sect? A certain Jew asked while stroking her chin. The corners of An Lin Chuan and Shangguan Hao's eyes twitched. Although they had never seen how other disciples treated Yun Chujiu, from the things she had done, it would be good enough if no one shouted at her. She still had delusions of being respected by tens of thousands of people. In her dreams, seeing that the two of them did not make a sound, Yun Chujiu snorted coldly in her heart. TSK. When the time was right, regardless of whether it was the primordial chaos sect or the murder origin sect, they had to be respectful to her. Otherwise, they would be disrespecting their elders and disrespecting their masters and ancestors. When this fellow thought of the scene of thousands of people worshipping him, his face instantly turned into a flower and he felt that walking was much easier. And Linchuan and Shangguan Hao were confused and they looked at each other. What kind of evil scheme was this guy trying to pull? The three of them followed the pontoon and arrived on the beach. Although there were islanders guarding the beach, no one stopped them. Yun Chujiu called out the big boat. The three of them had just boarded the boat when they saw the 5 clan leaders running over. The 5 old men shouted as they ran, Your Highness, we are fine. Please take us with you. Yun Chujiu pursed her lips. She sounded nice, but wasn't she afraid that she would run away and leave them alone? They really didn't understand her. How could she run away without obtaining the Spirit Stone mine? After the 5 clan leaders boarded the ship, one of them asked, Your Highness, shall we go and look for help now? As far as I know, there are no other islands nearby. Should we go to a faraway place to look for help? Yun Chujiu said with a smile, Well, I'm not sure either. Let's try our luck. Maybe we'll find it soon, or maybe we'll have to spend more time. The 5 old men looked at each other. Why did it sound so unreliable? Where exactly was this little girl going to find help? 2 hours after the ship left the beach, an old man shouted in fear, Sea beasts. A large group of sea beasts is swimming towards us. Run. The other 4 old men were also in a panic. If they had known this would happen, they would not have followed her. This little girl's luck was too bad. Although there were sea beasts near the chessboard island, there were very few sea beasts that appeared in groups. Now that they had encountered so many of them, they were really unlucky. And Linchuan and Shangguan Hao were not as nervous as the 5 old men, but their expressions were solemn. Although there were no sea beasts above level 40 near the chessboard island, it was still very troublesome to deal with so many sea beasts. When everyone was shocked, Yun Chujiu's face showed joy. Look, isn't this the labor that came to us? I'll go and see if there are any suitable ones. After saying that, she jumped into the water and swam toward the sea beasts. Chapter 2840 Online. All page, Novel Bin. Everyone was dumbfounded. Was this guy crazy? Did she say that she was looking for labor to find sea beasts? What kind of joke was this? Putting aside whether sea beasts knew how to mine, the main reason was that sea beasts and humans were incompatible with each other. How could they agree to help her mine? Moreover, that was a group of sea beasts. If she swam over just like that, wouldn't she be sending herself to her death? Your Highness, come back quickly. The 5 old men stretched their necks and shouted, at Novelban at. And Linchuan and Shangguan Hao looked at each other. They weren't that worried. After all, junior sister Ju had a turtle shell in her hands. If worst came to worst, she could just hide in the turtle shell. However, was it reliable to hire sea beasts as labor? This was simply a joke. After Yun Chujiu dove into the sea, she stopped the summoning of Guaikao. It was almost enough. If too many sea beasts came at once, she was afraid that she wouldn't be able to fool them. The sea beasts were attracted by a strange fragrance, but they suddenly realized that the fragrance had disappeared. While the sea beasts were at a loss, they saw a little human girl swimming over from afar. She was waving a white cloth strip in her hand. Hi, little babies, how are you? The sea beasts were dumbfounded. Where did this crazy girl come from? Was she crazy? Yun Chujiu swam with all her might. With the waves splashing, she finally swam to about 100 feet away from the sea beasts. Little babies, it's fate that we met. How about we make a deal? A certain Jew waved the white cloth in her hand and smiled like a big-tailed wolf. The sea beasts only wanted to give her 2 words: crazy. The sea beasts roared one after another. However, there were too many wolves and too little meat. For a moment, no one rushed forward. Don't be anxious. Listen to what I have to say. The matter is like this. Perhaps you know that there is an undersea spirit mine not far from here. I am prepared to hire you to mine for me. However, don't worry. I will not use you for nothing. I will pay you with medicinal pills. There are some that increase the speed of spiritual power absorption, some that stop bleeding and treat injuries. Moreover, I guarantee that they are all super-grade medicinal pills. There are no impurities, Yun Chujiu said as she took out a few medicinal pills and threw them into the sea beasts. The sea beasts immediately became a mess. Moreover, the pills would melt in the water. By the time the victor was decided, the pills would have already melted into the sea water. The eyes of the sea beasts revealed a greedy light. One by one, they narrowed the distance between them and Yun Chujiu with malicious intentions. The purpose was very simple. They wanted to force Yun Chujiu to hand over all the pills in her hands. The sea beasts thought to themselves, this little human girl is indeed not smart. Doesn't she know the principle of not revealing her wealth? What an idiot. Yun Chujiu squinted her eyes. It seemed like it was time for Da Hua to appear. With a wave of his hand, a group of piglets with spiritual power jumped in front of her and blocked her way. The sea beasts were stunned at first, then they let out a mocking roar. This little human girl's spiritual power was actually a pig. And a piglet. Ha ha ha. How weak. The sea beasts began to play with the spiritual piglet. Although the spiritual piglet was clever, it was too weak. How could it be a match for so many sea beasts? Some of the spiritual piglet's tails were bitten off, some of their ears were about to fall off, and some of them were tossed around like balls by 2 sea beasts. Just as these sea beasts were fooling around with the piglets' bodies became fainter and fainter. The sea beasts thought to themselves, these spirit beasts are probably going to disappear. What a pity, they haven't had enough fun yet. Then, they were stunned to find that the spirit energy that was about to disappear had gathered back into a cute purple piglet. Chapter 2841 Online. All page, novel bin. The sea beasts were stunned at first, then they let out a mocking roar again. Purple. Purple hair. Go. Play it to death. The sea beasts were eager to charge forward, and then they retreated with swooshing sounds. F*CK, who could tell them why this purple spiritual piglet was getting bigger and bigger? The spiritual piglet could get bigger after it was released. What kind of joke was this? The purple piglet was getting bigger and bigger, and it was obvious that this fellow liked water very much. It was dancing happily in the water. A slightly bigger sea beast felt that although Da Hua was big, it was not necessarily powerful. Thus, it shot a few water arrows at Da Hua. Da Hua raised its hooves, and the water arrows changed direction, shooting towards the sea beast. The sea beast was so scared that it quickly dived down, and only then did it dodge the water arrow. Yes, it was the water arrow that it shot itself. The other sea beasts saw the situation, and although they were a little afraid, they felt that it was nothing much. Therefore, 7 or 8 sea beasts looked at each other, and then shot countless water arrows at Da Hua at the same time. Yun Chujiu grinned. It was over. Da Hua was most likely going to die. It seemed like she had to prepare to release Da Hua II. Unexpectedly, Da Hua opened her mouth and swallowed all the water arrows. Then, there was nothing else. Not only did the water arrows disappear, but Da Hua's body seemed to have become more solid. She was even more happy when she splashed the water. The purple piglet thought to itself, even though the name Da Hua was a depressing name, it was still good to take a stroll occasionally. It was so comfortable in the water. Sea beast number 1. Oh my God, where is my baby's water arrow? Sea beast number 2. Oh my God, the water arrow was swallowed by it. Swallowed. Swallowed. Sea beast number 3. Pervert. Hei Shinjiu felt that Da Hua, who had appeared out of nowhere, was her cheat. It was too awesome. With Da Hua in hand, I have the world. This fellow hugged his shoulders. He said smugly, little babies, can we talk about business now? Actually, what you need to do is very simple. Find your companions, smash the spirit stone mine into pieces, and your mission will be completed. This is simply too easy for you, isn't it? Quote exclamation mark. As long as you complete the mission, I will give you the corresponding pills. Of course, whoever contributes the most will get the most pills. Don't think that you can besiege me just because you have a lot of sea beasts. Besides Da Hua, I also have the invincible son of AB*TCH. Yun Chujiu hid the little bastard in her sleeve and let him summon the big turtle shell. Although the turtle shell was not a living sea beast, there was still the pressure of high-level sea beasts on it. These sea beasts were all below level 40. How could they withstand it? They immediately became terrified. Although there were many of them, they all had their own plans in mind. No one was willing to provoke the big purple pig. Moreover, they only needed to hit a rock a few times to get the pills. Was this a good deal? Let's do it. Yun Chujiu estimated and felt that these sea beasts were a little too few. However, if they got too many at once, it would not be worth it if they rebelled. Forget it, let's try using them first. If it doesn't work, we can just come out and recruit another batch. After all, there was no lack of sea beasts in the sea. Therefore, this fellow was in front, followed by a group of black sea beasts, swimming towards the big ship. The 5 old men on the deck of the big ship stretched their necks and watched. They saw the waves rolling in the distance, accompanied by the roars of the sea beasts. Their hearts were in their throats. They had wanted to jump into the sea to rescue her, but Linchuan and Shangguan Hao said that they would wait and see. They could only watch anxiously from the deck. Finally, they saw Yun Chujiu emerge from the water with a large group of sea beasts behind her. They immediately said to Linchuan and Shangguan Hao, "Quick! Her Highness is being chased by those sea beasts. Let's hurry up and rescue her." At Novelban. Chapter 2842 online. All page, Novel Bin. Linchuan did not understand what was going on, so he had to steer the ship towards Yun Chujiu's direction. Shangguan Hao was more careful. He took a closer look and felt that it did not seem to be the case. Have you ever seen people who were running for their lives swimming so leisurely? Have you ever seen people who were running for their lives interacting with sea beasts? Moreover, those sea beasts didn't seem like they were chasing after Yun Chujiu. Instead, they looked more like the foolish sons of the landlords who were shaking their heads and wagging their tails, having fun at the back. After a short while, even the 5 old men realized that they seemed to have made a mistake. Those sea beasts were only following the goddess, and had no intention of attacking her. Yun Chujiu instructed the sea beasts to follow behind the ship, and then jumped onto the ship. Plop, plop. The 5 old men immediately knelt on the deck. The goddess was indeed the goddess. Otherwise, why would the messenger of the sea god listen to her? The goddess had not admitted her identity before. She was too low-key. Yun Chujiu was dumbfounded. What are you doing? Your Highness, we were blind. We even suspected you. We deserve to die. The 5 old men kowtowed as they spoke. No matter how Yun Chujiu explained, the 5 old men were sure that she was a true goddess. This fellow did not explain. If he was willing to bow, then he should bow. This was good too. At least they were more obedient and had less trouble. 2 hours later, the big ship returned to Chessboard Island with a mass of sea beasts. The islanders on duty on Chessboard Island were all scared silly. Oh God! Could it be a sea beast tide? Why were there still so many sea beasts? Could it be that the sea god was angry because the priest was not dead? For a moment, everyone was anxious. Fortunately, everyone saw that the people on the big ship in front were safe and sound, so they calmed down a little. The 5 old men briefly explained the matter, but the version they said was far from the truth. The gist was that the goddess was the sea god's favored child, so the sea god would send so many sea beasts to help them dig for spirit stones. The 5 old men were highly respected, and the islanders firmly believed it. Besides, they had no choice but to believe it. The sea beasts on the surface of the sea were the best proof. What happened next was very smooth. Although the sea beasts didn't know how to mine, they had brute force. With just a few swings of their tails, they could knock down a large piece of spirit stone mine. Especially the sea beasts with sharp long teeth. Their 2 long teeth were like shovels, and the very hard spirit stones were like tofu under their long teeth. Some of the bold islanders who were watching in the sea were dumbfounded. No wonder Her Highness said that she could mine all the spirit stones in half a month. Now it seemed that she could do it in 10 days. Her Highness was really amazing. Of course, due to the wild movements of these sea beasts, it was inevitable that they would waste some spirit stones. However, Yun Chujiu was a rich and overbearing person who did not care about it at all. The islanders did not dare to say anything even though their hearts ached for her. They now respected Yun Chujiu far more than they did the priestess. That priestess was a fraud. She was a liar. The goddess was the real deal. She was the sea god's favorite. 10 days later, the spiritual stone mine was almost fully mined. The sand that was like the seabed next to it was exposed, and there were creaking sounds coming from above, at Novelban at. Yun Chujiu knew that the chessboard island was going to sink. Everyone and the sea beasts quickly retreated to a safe area. Then, they saw all the islands, big and small, sink into the sea in an instant. 1843 online. All page, novel bin. When there was no movement, Yun Chujiu dived into the sea to take a look. To her surprise, there was only a bare seabed at the bottom of the sea. There were no sunken islands. How strange. Where did those islands go? Yun Chujiu had a flash of inspiration. After the human-faced octopus self-detonated, she was teleported to the vicinity of Chessboard Island. These islands sank and then disappeared. Could there be a teleportation array between the two? The more she thought about it, the more likely it was. Could it be that Chessboard Island was once the stronghold of the Divine Devil Temple? That was not right. If it was the stronghold of the Divine Devil Temple, how could the priest not know how to open the enchantment of the spiritual stone mine? Yun Chujiu thought for a while, but the more she thought about it, the more confused she became. She had 2 guesses about the Divine Devil Temple. One was that the Divine Devil Temple seemed to have been glorious a long time ago. Later on, for some unknown reason, it was severely damaged. Even their leader lost most of his power, and the soldiers and crabs were scattered all over the continent. The other was that the Divine Devil Temple had started to set up a long time ago, and they had set up a very big scheme. As for the gold-masked men and the like that she had come into contact with, they were just a disguise on the surface. The 2 monsters that she had met by chance and the priest from before seemed to be the backbone of the Divine Devil Temple. The more Yun Chujiu thought about it, the more she felt that the master behind the Divine Devil Temple was very scheming and had a powerful background. If it was an ordinary person, they would definitely feel heavy-hearted when they thought about this. They might even suffer a huge blow. However, a certain Jew was more courageous the more she was defeated. Instead, a fighting spirit was ignited in her heart. No matter what the divine devil temple was, as long as her little fairy Jew was there, it would not be able to succeed. Yun Chujiu checked the bottom of the sea once and found nothing. Only then did she board the large ship and the group set off in a mighty manner along the west side. Those sea beasts had obtained the medicinal pills that Yun Chujiu had promised. Logically speaking, they should have stayed where they were. However, some smart sea beasts felt that this was a good deal, so they followed behind the fleet at a distance. Every time there were blind sea beasts attacking the fleet, these sea beasts would roar and rush out to kill. After a few times, Yun Chujiu could only reward them with some pills. These sea beasts were so proud that they didn't want them. After hunting those blind sea beasts, not only did they solve the belly problem, but they also got extra rewards. It was a good thing to kill many birds with one stone. When the islanders of Chessboard Island saw this, they were even more convinced of Yun Chujiu's identity as a goddess because these sea beasts were obviously protecting Her Highness. A few days passed in a row. A certain Jew was so bored that she wanted to jump into the sea. At Novelbanat. On this day, a certain Jew's eyes lit up. She wanted to fish on a whim. And Linchuan and Shangguan Hao were speechless. You really have nothing to do. As long as you say the word, those sea beasts will bring you a whole boat of fish. What are you fishing for? Yun Chujiu, on the other hand, was very creative. She took a few fishing rods from the islanders and began to pretend to fish. Those sea beasts were really becoming smart. They actually surrounded and intercepted a huge school of fish. Yun Chujiu's fishing rod was hooked one after another, and it almost made this guy dizzy. However, she soon realized that something was wrong and scolded the sea beasts angrily. The sea beasts were so upset. They were afraid of being flattered by their benefactor, but why did they jump on the hook? Yun Chujiu was so angry that she asked the sea beasts to protect the remaining big ships. The ship she was on increased its speed and left them behind by more than 10 miles. Then, she continued to fish on the deck. Chapter 2844 Online. All page, Novel Bin. And Linchuan and Shangguan Hao couldn't be bothered to talk about this monster. They finally understood that this guy had the nature of a monster. Even if he had nothing to do, he could still cause trouble. After a while, just when Yun Chujiu was so happy that she couldn't close her mouth because she had caught a big fish, a big ship came from the distance. Yun Chujiu was delighted. She finally saw an outsider. It was probably very close to land. This was great. However, when the two ships approached, a certain Jew found that most of the people who came were wearing black and silver masks. The one leading them was the priest, at Novelbanat. The priest said coldly, Yun Chujiu, we have been waiting for you here for a long time. Last time, because we didn't have enough people, we let you take advantage of us. This time, you won't be able to escape even if you have wings. TSK, so it's you who lost. What's the matter? How many helpers did you bring this time? Yun Chujiu crossed her arms and pouted. HMPH. I brought over 100 people this time. Even if you let out that giant purple pig, we are more than enough to deal with the three of you. The reason why we are here to block you is to ensure that nothing goes wrong. On this sea, you are saying that every day should not be called by the earth. Today, you are dead for sure. The priest hated Yun Chujiu to death in his heart. After many years of planning, he finally started to see the results. He did not expect to be disturbed by this stinky girl. However, it did not matter. First, they would kill this stinky girl. Then, they would think of a way to sneak into Chessboard Island. As long as they controlled those 5 old things, they were not afraid that the others would not comply. When that time came, the Spirit Stone mine would still be his, and he would even kill the number 1 enemy of the Divine Devil Hall. It was simply killing 2 birds with 1 stone. Just as the priest was feeling pleased with himself, he heard Yunchujiu sigh. Sigh, what you said is quite reasonable. I am a passable person on land, but when I am in the water, I am a good for nothing. My Dahua is a good for nothing like me in the water, not to mention my husband and my husband. They are just landlubbers. Moreover, we were all alone and did not have any helpers. There was really nothing we could do except to surrender. How about we discuss this? If you let us go, I will give you money. I will give you a lot of money. TCH, stinky girl, do you think we are fools? As long as we kill you, your things will be ours. Cut the crap, everyone go. Kill them. The priest waved his hand, and the ship he was on accelerated towards Yunchujiu. Oh my, are you really going to kill me? I'm not going to fight with you. The best plan is to run for your life. Yunchujiu had An Linchuan turn the bow of the ship and start to run. Although An Linchuan and Shangguan Hao were expressionless, they secretly lit 100 candles for the people of the Divine Devil Hall. These people were really unlucky. Did they think that there were only the 3 of them? There were thousands of people behind them. Moreover, there were hundreds of sea beasts in the sea. Although there were no sea beasts above level 40, the sea was their territory. These people of the Divine Devil Hall, were simply snacks for them. The priest did not know this. His eyes were full of excitement. Yunchujiu was dead for sure today. Even if she could run, where else could she run to? Moreover, she was simply out of her mind. She actually turned around and ran back. If she ran toward the shore, perhaps she would run into a fleet of ships or something. If she ran back, it would be impossible for her to meet anyone who would help her. Just as the priest was feeling smug, his eyes suddenly widened. He saw 7 or 8 large ships approaching from the distance. Chapter 2845 Online. All page, Novel Bin. The priest was hoping that those ships were just passing fleets. After giving him a warning, they would not meddle in other people's business. However, as they got closer and closer, he was very familiar with the faces on the ships. They were actually people from Chessboard Island. How could they appear here? How was this possible? Before the priest could figure it out, he heard his subordinate behind him say in horror, "Sir, look, those are sea beasts. There are hundreds of them." The priest looked in the direction that those people pointed and saw hundreds of sea beasts swimming towards them, surrounding their ship. Those sea beasts were so happy that they were jumping up and down. Previously, they had flattered the horse hooves, but now they could finally make up for it. Perhaps the little girl would reward them with a lot of pills when she was happy. Therefore, the sea beasts were very excited in the sea. They were waiting for Yunchujiu's order to capsize the priest's ship. Yunchujiu asked An Linchuan to stop the ship and then said with a faint smile, "I gave you a chance just now. I said let's call it quits. But you're not willing, so it's not my fault. People of the Divine Devil Hall, listen up. I'm the softest person. If you control that old bastard and don't let him use the secret technique of the resurrection lily to escape, I'll make the decision to let you go. If you don't know what's good for you, then you can only feed me these little babies." In order to cooperate with Yunchujiu's words, the sea beasts shook their heads and wagged their tails. For a moment, the entire sea water was like a boiling pot of boiling water, and it was extremely noisy. Those black masked men and silver masked men were so scared that they almost peed their pants. At Novelbanat. What happened to them ganging up on Yunchujiu? What happened to them ganging up on 3 people with more than 100 people? Not to mention the thousands of people on those few ships, these hundreds of sea beasts could eat 'em up to the point that not even the dregs were left. The priest fiercely glanced at his subordinates. Don't forget, you are the people of the divine devil hall. If you dare to betray the Lord, you will be doomed forever. 2e. Don't listen to his nonsense. What do you mean by doomed? If that *T Lord is so powerful, he will make me suffer. Don't just stand there. Hurry up and arrest him. I promise I will keep my word and spare your lives, Yun Chujiu said with her hands on her hips. The silver-masked men hesitated for a moment. Between death and betraying the Divine Devil Temple, they chose to betray the Divine Devil Temple. The main reason was that their status was too low. They were basically bought over by the gold-masked men with pills and spirit stones. There was basically no loyalty to speak of. Now that their lives were at stake, they would naturally choose to save their lives. Although the priest's spiritual power was not low and he had a defensive spirit tool, how could he be a match for 100 people? Moreover, he could not use it on the deck. He wanted to jump into the sea, but there were hundreds of sea beasts waiting for him in the sea. He had said to Yun Chujiu that there was no way to get into the sea, but now it came true for him. In less than 15 minutes, the priest had been tied up and delivered to Yun Chujiu. The people of Chessboard Island had a new level of worship for the goddess. It turned out that the goddess was not fishing for the fish in the sea, but for the big fish, the priest. The goddess was indeed a goddess. It was truly a divine plan. And Lin Chuan, Shangguan Hao. They really wanted to shout at them. They were thinking too much. This guy was really just fishing for demons. As for catching the old priest, it was purely a coincidence. Chapter 2846 online. All page, novel bin. The priest sneered, Yun Chujiu, your skills are not as good as mine. I have nothing to say. However, if you want to get any information from me, don't even think about it. Yun Chujiu knew that such an old fogey would not be able to get anything out of him even if she tortured him. Therefore, she directly knocked him out and prepared to search his soul. Who would have thought that the moment her spiritual sense entered the priest's spiritual sense, the priest would bleed to death from all 7 orifices. As Yun Chujiu had checked earlier, the priest's mouth did not contain any poison, which meant that it was because of the soul imprint. Yun Chujiu sneered at the silver-masked men and the black-masked men. Did you see that? The Divine Devil Hall is so cruel to their loyal lackeys. You little scumbags are lucky to have turned back from the wrong path. Otherwise, you would have the same fate. The people from the Divine Devil Temple looked terrified. They were sure that Yun Chujiu did not kill the priest because she had not gotten what she wanted to know. Moreover, the soul search had not started yet. After Yun Chujiu took off the priest's storage ring, she interrogated the people from the Divine Devil Temple. The information she got was very limited, at Novelban at. All right, I said I would spare your lives. Now, hand over your storage rings and get lost. In order to save their lives, the people from the Divine Devil Hall had to remove their spiritual senses from their storage rings and hand them over to Yun Chujiu. Yun Chujiu then told them to get lost. She believed that after they saw the priest's tragic death, they would not join the Divine Devil Hall even if they were asked to. This fellow comforted everyone. When everyone returned to their respective ships, Yun Chujiu's face was beaming like a flower. And Lin Chuan was puzzled. Junior sister Ju, we didn't manage to get anything out of him. Why are you so happy? Senior brethren, although we didn't manage to get anything out of him, I managed to get my hands on that priest's storage ring. The spiritual ores that were dug out earlier are all in there. I've made a windfall. Do you think I'm happy? Yun Chujiu lowered her voice and said with a smile. Junior sister little Ju, aren't you going to give half of these spiritual ores to Chessboard Island? Of course not. The ores that they have obtained are enough for them to live a carefree life for a few lifetimes. Moreover, they have been isolated from the mainland for too long. They might even be scammed to the point that they will turn upside down. I'll help them collect these ores first. I'll visit them in a few years. If they're living well, then forget it. But if they're living a miserable life, I'll give them some more, Yun Chujiu said with conviction. And Lin Chuan pondered over the meaning of her words. Although it seemed to make sense, he still felt that she was looking for an excuse to monopolize these spiritual ores. After another 2 days, they finally saw a few fishing boats. Everyone was elated. They were finally going ashore. Yun Chujiu gave some pills to the sea beasts and sent them away. The sea beasts were reluctant to leave. They cried for a while before diving into the sea. After a day, they finally saw the shore. The people of Chessboard Island had mixed feelings. They were happy that they had survived the disaster, but they were also afraid of the unknown life. After they got ashore, the voice transmission talismans in Yun Chujiu's storage rings trembled non-stop. The 3 of them quickly replied to them one by one. Yun Chujiu first replied to Jin Shi and Yi Bingyu, then to Zhu Wuji and Feng, and then to a certain guy who was extremely angry. After a certain guy received a reply, he only replied with one word, yes. A certain Jew immediately felt unhappy. No matter what, she had a slim chance of survival, but this pretty boy only replied with one, yes. Chapter 2847 Online. All page, Novel Bin. Prince Charming, you are so cold. You will lose your baby, do you know that? A certain Jew said angrily. Didn't I give you a jade token before? There is a thread of my spiritual sense inside, so I am sure you are safe. Moreover, I am a little busy talking to you while killing people. Yun Chujiu. This guy immediately cowered and said weakly, you're busy, you're busy. Damn it, you still have time to send a voice transmission talisman when you're killing people. You're really amazing. Yun Chujiu calmed her frightened little heart and saw Lin Chuan looking at her with a gloating expression. Yun Chujiu asked in puzzlement, Senior brother why are you smiling? Junior sister Xiao Ju, my father just passed on the message from Master Bailey. Master said that the setting sun sea is at the easternmost part of the immortal Yuan continent and is millions of miles away from the primordial chaos sect. This journey will take at least 2 months, so you can go straight to the murderous Yuan sect. And Lin Chuan said as he laughed. Junior sister Xiao Ju was too unpopular. Yun Chujiu was so angry that she was twitching. This old man Bai Li, did he have to be so obvious in his disdain? Who cared about waiting for her to return to the primordial chaos sect to rest for a few days? Then chasing her to the primordial murder sect could be considered as giving her some face. But now, before she had even gone back, he actually wanted to send her away. It was infuriating. This fellow blinked his eyes. Senior brother Shangguan, look at the people on Chessboard Island. They have blank and uneasy expressions on their faces, so let's help them settle down before returning to the sect. And Lin Chuan didn't react, but Shangguan Hao understood Yun Chujiu's intention. The people on Chessboard Island had to find another seaside to settle down. The nearest sea of fire was hundreds of thousands of miles away. After all this trouble, when they went back, junior sister Lai Yan would have missed out on the 3 months of the primordial killing sect, then, they could continue to harm the primordial chaos sect. Before Shangguan Hao had the chance to express his opinion, and Lin Chuan said excitedly, Good. Good. I'll tell my father that we've finally left the origin killing sect. We must have a good time before returning. Soon, and Lin Chuan heard Mountain Master Han's furious voice, Little brat, get your ass back here. And Lin Chuan shrugged helplessly. Junior sister Ju, my father wants me to get my ass back here. Yun Chujiu pouted. Senior brethren, since you're so afraid of your father, then get your ass back here. I'll settle the people on Chessboard Island myself. After all, I'll be a member of the Shi Yuan sect when I get back. Master Bailey can't do anything to me. And Lin Chuan was provoked by Yun Chujiu. He immediately patted his chest and said, "TSK. I don't accept the orders of a general who is away from home. I don't accept the orders of my father who is away from home. I'll pretend that I didn't hear the voice transmission talisman just now. Come, let's go to the Sea of Fire together," Lai Yan said. "Senior brother Shangguan, it's meaningless for you to go back alone. Come with us." At Novelban. Shangguan Hao rubbed his forehead speechlessly. He had a premonition that these two fellows would probably cause more trouble. However, the three of them were together. It was 2-1, so he had no choice but to follow them. When the people of Chessboard Island heard that Yun Chujiu had followed them to find a place to settle down, they immediately sang praises and praised the virtues. They instantly felt that they had a backbone. Since there were thousands of people on Chessboard Island, it would definitely cause chaos if they were to enter the city. Therefore, Yun Chujiu brought a few representatives of the islanders to the nearest city to buy a lot of food and fresh water. Only then did she bring everyone to board several flying spirit tools and head to Lai Yan's Sea. Chapter 2848 Online. All page, Novel Bin. Little Ninth Junior Sister, you are too rich. Not only do you have so many big ships, but you also have so many flying spirit tools. How enviable, and Lin Chuan said with an envious tone. Senior brethren, you don't have to be envious of me. After I finish refining these spirit ores, you and senior brother Shangguan will get your share. Then, you will also be rich, Yun Chujiu said as she chewed on the spirit fruit. And Lin Chuan and Shangguan Hao were stunned. There was still a share for them. To be honest, they felt that they were basically not of much help, and it was even a burden. Junior sister Ju actually gave them spirit stones. The two of them were very touched. At this moment, they heard Yun Chujiu continue, "Since you are rich, we will come out together in the future. You two will be responsible for food, clothing, and accommodation. In addition, when we go back, we can't go back empty-handed. We have to bring some gifts for the sect leader and the other peak masters. You two will be in charge of this as well. Also." The two of them decided to feed their emotions to the dogs again. This was clearly the wool that came out of the sheep's body, okay. From the Sea of Sunset to the Sea of Lai Yan, they had walked for almost a month. During this time, they had occasionally encountered robbers. A certain Jew had robbed the miserable bandits in the end. The people of Chessboard Island had reached a new height in their personal worship of the goddess. One day, when they landed in a valley to rest, the little boy named Liang brought Yun Chujiu a lot of spirit fruits. These were picked by the islanders before the sinking of Chessboard Island. Yun Chujiu was naturally very happy. Liang looked at Yun Chujiu with admiration and mustered up his courage to say, "Your Highness, can you accept me as your disciple?" Yun Chujiu was stunned, then she laughed, "I don't accept disciples, it's too troublesome to teach disciples. However, I can give you 3 pieces of advice." Liang immediately showed a devout expression, "Your Highness, please say it." Firstly, there is no such thing as a pie falling from the sky. So, remember, there is a high possibility that there is a trap behind the delicious pie. Secondly, if people don't attack me, I will not attack them. If people attack me, I will beat them to death. Thirdly, don't take advantage of bastards. Alright, go back and slowly think about it. You are very smart. You will definitely be able to achieve something in the future, Yun Chujiu said with the air of a pretentious expert. Liang seemed to not understand, but he still thanked Yun Chujiu before leaving. And Lin Chuan held back his laughter and almost suffered internal injuries. He pointed at Yun Chujiu and said, "Junior sister little Jew, this first one of yours is passable. The second one is also passable. This third one is purely the logic of a bandit. You will spoil that kid." The corners of Yun Chujiu's mouth curled up. "Senior brethren, you are wrong. The people of the chessboard island were too simple and honest. Only this Liang was smarter. In a few years, when this Liang grows up, he will definitely be able to hold the power of the chessboard island in his hands. If you don't believe me, you can come and take a look in a few years." And Lin Chuan felt that Yun Chujiu's words were a little exaggerated. He was just a kid, how could he be so powerful? Yun Chujiu glanced at Lin Chuan. "He asked me for help in the orchard, which means that he is filial and courageous. He stuffed the yellow honey fruit with strips, which means that he is smart and intelligent. On the beach, he called on the islanders to rebel against the priest. His words were reasonable, and he knew that in the end, he used family ties to move the islanders. This means that he has the ability to see through people's hearts. At Novelban at. Don't forget, he is only 9 years old. Senior, and you were still playing with mud when you were 9 years old, right?" And Lin Chuan, "You only played with mud when you were 9 years old. The boat of friendship has capsized." Chapter 2849 online. All page, Novel Bin. And Lin Chuan was rendered speechless by Yun Chujiu's words, but he was still unconvinced. It wasn't until a few years later that he accidentally learned from others that all the islands in Lian's Sea had formed the Thousand Island Alliance. The alliance leader was a young man named Qi Liang. Coincidentally, Lian's name was Qi Liang. Yun Chujiu had even mocked him behind his back. This Lian's name was really terrible. Wouldn't Qi Liang be miserable? Although there were a few twists and turns on the way, it was basically smooth sailing. After more than a month, they arrived at the Sea of Fire. Since Yun Chujiu and the others had thousands of people, they naturally attracted a lot of attention. Especially after they found out that they had boarded the ship and entered the sea, some island owners couldn't sit still anymore and sent people to inquire about the news. Yun Chujiu simply gathered these island owners together, and then said, "Everyone, we just want to find an island in the Sea of Fire as a place to lie Yan. You don't have to worry about your interests being violated. We will try to stay out of your sphere of influence. Of course, if anyone has a suitable island for us, we'd appreciate it." The island owners looked at each other and snorted in their hearts. They had thousands of people, more than the number of people on their island. Who knew what they were thinking? A bearded man cleared his throat and said, "Miss Yun, to tell you the truth, the number of islands in the Sea of Fire itself is not many. Basically, they have all been occupied. Lai Yan, do you know how many islands there are in the Sea of Fire? Moreover, there are so many of you. It's not easy to find a suitable island to live on. I say, you should just settle down in Binhai City. Why do you have to live on the sea?" Hearing his words, Yun Chujiu didn't have any antipathy. After all, they were considered outsiders, and it would affect their interests. It was understandable for her to feel conflicted. What this island owner said makes sense, but my islanders are used to living on islands, so they still want to find a suitable island. Lai Yan, I don't quite understand. The Sea of Fire is so big, so logically speaking, shouldn't there be many islands? We can give up the islands near the sea. It doesn't matter if we are farther away, Yun Chujiu said with a faint smile on her face and a calm tone. The island owners saw that Yun Chujiu's attitude was good, and she did not speak aggressively, so the resistance in their hearts was slightly reduced. The bearded man continued to say, "Miss Yun, I think you are also a real person. I will tell you the truth. Don't look at Lian's Sea so big. but do you know why it is called Lai Yan Sea? And Lin Chuan heard Whiskers said that Yun Chujiu is a real person, almost burst out laughing. This guy is real people. She was simply a little devil who would not spit out a bone. Yun Chujiu glared at Lin Chuan, who was winking at her. Then, she said to the bearded man, I only heard that there seems to be flames rising from the ground in the Sea of Fire. I don't know the specifics. Lai Yan was stunned. You're right. That's how the Sea of Fire got its name. Although the Sea of Fire is very large, there are many heaven flames in the Sea of Fire. The surrounding seawater is like boiling water, and there's no way to get close to it, Lai Yan explained. Therefore, only the islands near the sea can be inhabited. The islands in the far sea are blocked by the heavenly flames. Humans have no way to reach them, explained the bearded man. Yun Chujiu suddenly realized that it was so. The problem was more troublesome now. It seemed that the bearded man was not lying. Other than the dove occupying the magpie's nest, there was no way to find a suitable island to live on, at Novelbanatat. However, although Hei Shinjiu was greedy for money, she still disdained to do the dove occupying the magpie's nest. Could it be that she could only leave the Sea of Fire and search for another sea?
Where
2850 online. All page, novel bin. Just as Yun Chujiu was feeling worried, the expressions of the island masters suddenly changed. I'm sorry, we have something urgent to attend to, so we'll take our leave first. Before Yun Chujiu could react, the island masters had already left. Yun Chujiu finally managed to stop the bearded man. Island Master Kang, what happened? Sigh. Didn't I tell you before? Lai Yan and Lai Yan had a lot of heaven flames in the Sea of Fire. Although we humans couldn't enter, there was a type of fire seal in the Sea of Fire. The skin could withstand boiling water, so they often swam from the far sea to the near sea to attack our islands, at Novelbanatat. Every time they came, there were hundreds of them. Who knew which island they would attack? It was really a headache. Island Master Kang sighed and said, we tried to kill the fire seals together, but we couldn't do anything after they swam into the sky fire. Lai Yan said. Yun Chujiu listened in a cloud of fog. Island Master Kang, the fire seal is a sea beast. Even if it attacks the island, it won't do much harm to the island. It can't jump onto the island to attack humans. Lai Yan was puzzled. Miss Yun, you only know one thing and you don't know the other. Although the fire seals can't climb onto land, they will surround an island and spew fire. Moreover, the fire they spew is much more overbearing than ordinary flames. In a moment, it can burn down the trees and houses on the island. Every time they come, they will bring us huge losses. It's really annoying. I have to leave quickly. You guys should also hurry back. If you are targeted by the flaming seals, you will be buried in the Sea of Fire. After saying that, Island Master Kang was about to leave in a hurry. Lai Yan and Lai Yan had already left. Wait, Island Master Kang, the three of us will go with you to see the so-called flaming seals. Yun Chujiu followed Island Master Kang into Lai Yan's boat without any explanation. And Lin Chuan and Shangguan Hao had no choice but to follow. As for the people on Chessboard Island, they obeyed Yun Chujiu's orders and obediently returned. Island Master Kang was in a hurry to return to his island to check. Although he wished he could push a certain Jew who came uninvited into the sea, he still endured it. After all, only the three of them would not cause any trouble. It was more important to return to the island first. Island Master Kang's island was called the Coconut Island because there were many coconut trees growing on his island. However, due to the fire seals attacks a few times, the edge of the Coconut Island had already become bare. Only the central area of the island still had a large amount of coconut forest. Lai Yan and the rest of the group had already arrived at the island. The group had just landed on the island when they saw a red patch rapidly approaching the coconut island. Island Master Kang cursed out loud, "Damn it. It seems that these damn fire seals have chosen our coconut island this time. Quickly inform everyone to get ready for battle. If I don't kill a few fire seals today, my surname will not be Lai Yan." Yun Chujiu stretched her neck to look into the distance. With the large red approaching, Yun Chujiu finally saw the so-called Lai Yan seal. Lai Yan was not much different from an ordinary seal, except that he was slightly bigger and his entire body was fiery red. Lai Yan thought that the Lai Yan seal was actually quite good looking. Of course, Lai Yan did not say this out loud, or else he would have been thrown into the sea by Island Master Kang. The Lai Yan seal was very fast. In less than 15 minutes, it had already surrounded the coconut island. With an excited roar, Lai Yan starts spitting fireballs at Coconut Island. Chapter 2851 Online. All page, Novel Bin. Yun Chujiu found a favorable terrain and crossed her arms to watch the show. An Linchuan whispered, "Junior sister Xiao Ju, aren't we going to help?" Yun Chujiu glanced at him and said, "I owe you. Did they ask you to help? Maybe they think you have other intentions. Anyway, it's just burning something, and it won't hurt anyone. We'll see." An Linchuan. Since when did he become the target of criticism? Why didn't junior sister Xiao Ju attack senior brother Shangguan? An Linchuan moved in front of Shangguan Hao and whispered his question. Shangguan Hao glanced at him and said faintly, "Because you owe me." An Linchuan. "Oh my god, I can't play properly anymore." He wanted to return to the primordial chaos sect and stay away from these two bad guys. While An Linchuan was playing around, the flaming seals had already gained the upper hand. Lai Yan and Lai Yan were on the same side. On one hand, the islanders on Coconut Island had to put out the fire, and on the other hand, they had to dodge the flaming seals' fireballs, so they were very passive. On the other hand, the flaming seals had thick skin, so even if they were attacked by the islanders' spiritual power, it wouldn't be a big deal. Lai Yan and Lai Yan were on the same side. Lai Yan and Lai Yan were so excited that they started to stack themselves on top of each other. This way, the fireballs that they spat out could go further. Coincidentally, they had their eyes on Yun Chujiu and Lai Yan who were watching the show. They thought to themselves, why do the other humans seem to have nothing to do with them when they are so nervous? Lai Yan. Therefore, the unlucky Lai Yan and Lai Yan started to shoot fireballs at Yun Chujiu and Lai Yan. Yun Chujiu's interest in watching the show was immediately interrupted by a few fireballs. She narrowed her eyes. She had wanted to see what would happen next, but she did not expect these flaming seals to be blind enough to provoke her. They were really looking for death. Lai Yan. Yun Chujiu took a few steps forward and pointed at the flaming seals with her finger and scolded, "Lai Yan. If you dare to provoke me again, I will destroy your nest." The flaming seals roared with disdain and disdain. No wonder this little human girl had been watching the show. It turned out that she was not smart enough. At destroy their nest. Putting aside whether she, a weak chicken, would be eaten by them, she would not be able to pass through the boiling seawater around the heavenly fire alone. She really overestimated herself. Therefore, they summoned the rest of their companions even more. A few of them stacked together and shot fireballs at Yun Chujiu. An Linchuan and Shangguan Hao were about to counterattack, but Yun Chujiu signaled them to step back. Then, she waved her hand and released 20 cute piglets of spiritual power. The flaming seals were stunned at first, then they roared even more ferociously. It was a joke to Lai Yan. This weak human spiritual power beast was actually a piglet. Ha ha, it was really weak. Not to mention the fire seals, Even the people of the nearby Coconut Island were stunned. Lai Yan was stunned. Wasn't this island owner's guest too weak? Since he was so weak, why didn't he not come out and embarrass himself? Couldn't he just stay behind? He was really asking for it. Lai Yan's spiritual piglet was quickly dispersed by the fireball. Just as the fire seals were running wild, the purple piglet jumped out. Although the flaming seals were a little surprised, they didn't think much of it. Lai Yan's expression changed. Did he want to compete with them in beauty? TSK. What's wrong with purple? They were still red. Who was afraid of who? Immediately after, the entire Coconut Island fell into a strange silence. The flaming seals that were stacked on top of Lai Yan fell into the sea. Chapter 2852 online. All page, novel bin. Both Lai Yan and the people of Coconut Island felt that their heads were not big enough when they saw the enormous spiritual beast in front of them. Although they had seen some people release spiritual beasts that were very big, they were not that big. This was too big. They did not expect that a delicate little girl's spiritual beast was actually such a big pig. TSK, it was really unexpected. Lai Yan and the fire seals felt that their performance just now was a little embarrassing, so they all shot fireballs at Da Hua. They thought to themselves, no matter how big your body is, you're just a spiritual beast, what else can you do? Burn you to death. Lai Yan did not reject any of Da Hua's attacks. She swallowed the fireballs that were shot out by the fire seals into her stomach, and then her body became even more solid. Lai Yan and the fire seals had never seen such a spiritual beast before. Lai Yan was stunned. What kind of monster was this? How could it swallow their fireballs? Lai Yan were stunned. Da Hua approached Lai Yan step by step. Lai Yan could not help but retreat. What was this pig trying to do? Lai Yan quickly reacted. What was there to be afraid of? Lai Yan were sea beasts. Even though Lai Yan was powerful on land, he might disappear in the sea. So, those Lai Yan seals feel the bottom of the heart, arrogant roar up. Da Hua's huge body jumped forward and plopped into the sea. Those Lai Yan seals cannot wait to rush up, want to tear Da Hua to pieces, but they sadly found that the pig can swim. Lai Yan, and a hoof can kick a fire seal dozens of feet away, tail a casual sweep, there is a string of fire seal was sent flying. Da Hua was having fun in the water. She kept flapping her wings, and then the flaming seals were sent flying with a whoosh. In an instant, the sea was bustling with activity, as if they were dumplings being cooked. Lai Yan and Lai Yan's hearts were about to collapse. They had never thought that they would be played like this by a spiritual beast. This was simply too embarrassing for the seals. It was intolerable. Even if their uncle could tolerate it, the seals couldn't. Therefore, all the blazing fire seals stopped attacking Lai Yan's Coconut Island and rushed towards Da Hua. Although Da Hua was abnormal, it was impossible for him to deal with so many blazing fire seals. Very soon, his figure faded and disappeared. Before the blazing fire seals could celebrate their victory, they saw a group of piglets with spiritual power fiercely pouncing towards them. Lai Yan and the rest of the blazing fire seals had already disappeared, at a Novelban at. Soon, when the piglets with spiritual power disappeared, Da Hua appeared out of nowhere again. With a few flaps, several fire seals flew out. Lai Yan were on the verge of collapse. That's right, they had overlooked a very important problem. That damned pig was a spiritual beast. There was no question of whether it would die or not. As long as its master's spiritual power was not exhausted, it could resurrect countless times. F***ck, it didn't want to live anymore. How could it bully a seal like that? This was called cheating. Everyone on Coconut Island looked at the chaotic battle on the sea with a dumbfounded expression. The blazing fire seal, which gave them a headache, was now being played by a huge spiritual pig until it had nothing to live for. No matter how they looked at it, they felt like they were in a dream. Lai Yan and the rest of the blazing fire seals in the group of blazing fire seals roared a few times, and then all of the blazing fire seals ran away. They thought to themselves, "It's a fool not to run when you know you can't win. There are other islands. Take it out on other humans." Da Hua saw the toys run away, in the sea for a while, and then disappeared. Chapter 2853 Online. All page, Novel Bin. Everyone on Coconut Island was dumbfounded. They felt that their worldview had been refreshed. How could a person's spiritual beast be so awesome? Lai Yan, who usually drove them crazy, was actually scared away by such a huge pig. Island Master Kang shook his head and pinched himself secretly. Only then did he confirm that he was not dreaming. He walked to Yun Chujiu with a polite attitude. "Miss Yun, you really don't show your face. I didn't expect you to be so capable. I apologize for what I said before. Please don't mind me." "Island Master Kang, you are too kind. Since you have nothing else to do, I plan to follow the group of fire seals to see their nest. We will take our leave now," Yun Chujiu also said very politely. Island Master Kang felt that he must have heard it wrong. Was this little girl not very smart? Although her spiritual beasts were quite powerful, they did not cause any substantial damage to the group of fire seals. Lai Yan was not afraid of them. At Novelbanat. The fire seals just did not intend to fight head-on with Lai Yan. If they really fought, she might not be able to gain any advantage. Moreover, she still wanted to find their nest. What a joke. Who didn't know that Lai Yan's nest was surrounded by sky fire? If she went there, she would be courting death. "Miss Yun, you're not joking, right? Lai Yan's nest is surrounded by sky fire. We humans have no way to get close to it. You'd better give up on this idea," Island Master Kang advised earnestly. "I'm just going to take a look. I might not really go in. Why don't you come with us?" Yun Chujiu said with a smile. Island Master Kang hesitated for a moment. He felt that it was not impossible to go and take a look. At worst, he could just turn around and come back. Anyway, he had a ship in his storage ring. He could come back anytime. Therefore, Island Master Kang brought a few guards and boarded Yun Chujiu's pirate ship. The big ship. The group of fire seals was very easy to track because they could see a large patch of fiery red from a distance. It was very eye-catching on the sea. Lai Yan and the rest of the group of fire seals followed suit. The group of fire seals had a good plan. Although there was that perverted little girl on the Coconut Island, there was no other island. They could go to other islands to play around. Therefore, the group of fire seals swam for a distance and surrounded an island called Lai Yan. Lai Yan Island got its name because the soil on the island was red. When Lai Yan Island's island master Luo saw the fire seals surrounding him, he quickly organized his men to fight back. While the two sides were fighting fiercely, a large ship sailed over from afar. Lai Yan Island master Luo stretched his neck to take a look. Wasn't this the little girl from before? The one behind was Island Master Kang. Could it be that she was here to help? But there were only a few people on the deck. Just as Island Master Luo was racking his brain, he heard the little girl on the deck shout loudly, "Hey! Little babies! Are you surprised? Are you surprised?" Lai Yan, who was spitting fire happily. It was definitely an accident, but forget about the surprise. It was clearly a shock. Okay. Why did this damn brat chase after them? A few of the older Lai Yan seals looked at each other. This brat really didn't know when to stop. She was going to kill her. Thus, the Lai Yan seals gave up on Red Sand Island and swam towards Yun Chujiu's ship. On the ship, Island Master Kang's intestines were turning green with regret. This brat was definitely sick. Moreover, she was quite sick. Aren't you just looking for trouble for no reason? What should we do now? If such a large group of flaming seals surrounded Lai Yan, this ship would definitely be burnt to ashes. Chapter 2854 was too wasteful online. All page, novel bin. Chapter 2854 was too wasteful. Island Master Luo of Red Sand Island was also dumbfounded. What was the meaning of this? Could it be to save their Red Sand Island? Although his spirit was commendable, wasn't this courting death? Island Master Luo hesitated for a moment, but he still summoned a large ship and let some young and strong islanders board the ship, preparing to rescue Yun Chujiu and the others. At this time, the blazing fire seals were already very close to Yun Chujiu's ship. Yun Chujiu didn't pay attention to Island Master Kang's Lai Yan beside her. She said to the blazing fire seals, "I'm warning you, if you continue to move forward, I won't be polite." Lai Yan said to the blazing fire seals. The blazing fire seals didn't think much of it. Wasn't she just letting out that big purple pig? What else could she do? Even though the purple pig was a little perverted, they might not lose in a real fight. Just as Lai Yan and the fire seals were thinking about it, they saw the little girl throw a stack of talismans at them. Before Lai Yan and the fire seals could react, they realized that they could not swim as fast as they wanted to. What kind of talismans was this? Yun Chujiu placed the piglet into the sea again. After a while, Da Hua was still flopping in the sea. Lai Yan and the blazing fire seals were out of luck. As soon as they returned to normal, Yun Chujiu threw down the ice talisman again. Then, it was slapped by Da Hua again. Of course, this was an order given by Yun Chujiu to Da Hua. Otherwise, she could have killed more than 10 blazing fire seals. At Novelban at. Island Master Kang and Island Master Luo were dumbfounded. How could this little girl have so many ice talisman? Could it be that her family sold talismans? Even if they sold talismans, they couldn't waste them like this, right? This was too wasteful. When the Lai Yan seals saw that the situation was bad, they decided to escape. Thus, the Lai Yan seals once again fled in panic. Yun Chujiu waved at Island Master Luo. "Island Master Luo, let's go. Follow us to the lair of the Lai Yan seals." Island Master Luo felt that his brain was a little lacking, so he was dragged onto the ship by Island Master Kang and continued to chase after the raging flame seals. Island Master Kang had a little plan in his mind. More people meant more power. Besides, he couldn't get on the pirate ship alone. It would be good to have more companions. The raging flame seals were obviously depressed. Therefore, they chose the Crescent Island and decided to vent their anger on Lai Yan. Just as they were about to fight, they heard the damned brat shout, "Hey! Little babies! What a coincidence! We meet again! Coincidence your head! This damned brat did it on purpose." The raging flame seals flew into a rage out of humiliation and charged towards Yun Chujiu once again. Then, they were sent flying by Da Hua again. F***ck, even though they had tough skin and thick flesh, they couldn't withstand such a fall. They didn't say anything else and continued to run. Yun Chujiu tricked Island Lord Ji of Crescent Island into getting on the pirate ship again. Everyone continued to chase after Lai Yan and Lai Yan. Lai Yan and Lai Yan had been attacked by Lai Yan and Lai Yan. After a few times, Lai Yan and Lai Yan had given up completely. They didn't believe that Lai Yan could pass through the heavenly fire zone. Therefore, Lai Yan's group of fire seals swam towards the sky fire zone. The island owners on the big ship kept persuading Yun Chujiu to return as soon as possible. If Yun Chujiu could listen to their persuasion, it would be a miracle. Lai Yan said with a smile, I'm just going to take a look. It won't be a big deal. At most, we can return to the edge of the island. Chapter 2855 online. All page, novel bin. Seeing that they could not persuade her, the island masters could only follow her lead. It was not until the next morning that Yun Chujiu realized that the temperature had started to rise. She tried the sea water with her hands and found that it was indeed a little warmer than before. Yun Chujiu stretched her neck and opened it to the distance. She did not see the flame rising as she had imagined. She only saw a vast expanse of fog. Lai Yan, who was standing on the other side of the sea, was stunned. Island Master Kang explained from the side, the heavenly fire is different from the fire on land. To be more precise, it's just a very hot air. Oh, how is that hot air formed? Yun Chujiu asked curiously. I don't know about that. After all, that hot air is very terrifying. No one has ever approached it, let alone investigated its source. However, looking from the bottom of the sea, I can see that every part of the heavenly fire is a huge whirlpool. Not to mention the terrifying heat, even the whirlpool is deadly, Island Master Kang said. Yun Chujiu nodded. She really thought things were simple. She originally thought that the so-called heavenly fire was nothing more than 1,000-year-old fire marrow. When the time came, she would just let the little flame swallow it. She did not expect that it was not the case at all. However, it was also true. Even though the little flame would not be extinguished in the water, the heat would be greatly reduced. Therefore, how could the so-called heavenly fire be 1,000-year-old fire marrow? She had really taken it for granted. While Yun Chujiu was in a daze, she was already very close to the blazing sea seals. Lai Yan and Lai Yan were already very close to them. It was very obvious that the blazing sea seals had deliberately slowed down their speed to wait for Yun Chujiu and Lai Yan. Lai Yan seal roar, which is full of provocation, that means, have the ability to follow them. Yun Chujiu curled her lips. These Lai Yan seals are really bored. I don't know why they keep coming after the islanders. Although they did not lose, but also did not take advantage of why go to great lengths to find the islanders' trouble? Was it just for fun? A thought flashed through Yun Chujiu's mind. She was really stupid. Wouldn't she understand everything if she contracted a Lai Yan dolphin? Why was there a need to guess here? Therefore, this fellow jumped into the sea. The island owners were shocked. Was this little girl crazy? What was she trying to do? At Novelban at. The Lai Yan seals were also a little confused. Although this human little girl was abnormal, she seemed to be really sick. Was she jumping down to let them eat her? Lai Yan's group of fire seals immediately turned around and surrounded Yun Chujiu. Yun Chujiu pointed her little finger at Lai Yan's group of fire seals. A bunch of idiots. Let's not talk about anything else. You guys can't swim as fast as me. As Yun Chujiu said that, she swam out with a whoosh. Lai Yan's group of fire seals were so angry that they were twitching. They were sea beasts, so how could they not swim faster than her? So one after another bravely took the lead and chased after Yun Chujiu. The people on the ship see the front of the water churning, and then the little girl swims south down, followed by a string of Lai Yan seal. This is doing. Did she lose her mind? Shouldn't we be running in the direction of their ship? Why are you heading south? Yun Chujiu provoked Lai Yan as she ran. The flaming seals behind her were furious. When Yun Chujiu saw that some of the flaming seals had escaped from the group, she immediately released her piglet of spiritual power. When the piglet was about to disappear, Da Hua came out lazily. It was not Da Hua's fault. Anyone who was tortured more than 10 times in a day would be bored. Besides, it was very boring to only be slapped away and not bitten to death. Chapter 2856 online. All page, novel bin. Yoon Chujiu had Da Hua use her huge body to block the other fire seals. Lai Yan smiled darkly as she swam towards a single fire seal. The fire seal immediately had an ominous premonition. However, when it thought about it, what was there to be afraid of about a little girl at the 6th level of the Ling Xuan realm? Burn her to death. Yes, a certain Jew used the truth to tell Lai Yan that she couldn't be burned to death. The more she burned, the happier she became. She was a pervert. Lai Yan had yet to recover from the shock of being burned to death when a certain Jew threw out several ice-condensing talismans. A certain Jew then easily signed a temporary contract with Lai Yan. Island Master Kang and the others were stretching their necks to look at Lai Yan when they saw the little girl riding a flaming seal to come back at Novelban at. Everyone was dumbfounded. Was she establishing a temporary contract? How did she do it? How could she establish a temporary contract when she was being chased by Lai Yan? Even though it's just a temporary contract, I have to give you a good name. You shall be called Lai Yan, Yoon Chujiu said to the unlucky Lai Yan while surfing on the sea. Lai Yan was so shocked that she couldn't even swim. Lai Yan. Lai Yan was a red Lai Yan, all right. What, you don't think that's a good name? You're red, right? You're a fish in the water, so what's wrong with a red Lai Yan? Come, Master will help you train your teeth. Red Lai Yan, green Lai Yan, and donkey, repeat after me. Lai Yan. Lai Yan's heart was extremely complicated and broken. She had thought that she could swim the fastest among the Lai Yan seals, which was something to be proud of. Who would have thought that just because she could swim fast, she was now unlucky enough to become some bullshit T-red carp? Oh my god, she simply didn't want to live anymore. The little black bird inside the spiritual beast bag was speechless. It rolled its bean-like eyes and reminded Xiao Hainiao, Master, hurry up and ask about business. Xiao Hainiao felt that it was really worried for its master who was so random. It could not be helped, after all, it was the smartest among these dumb cuties. Yoon Chujiu touched her nose guiltily, and she accidentally let herself go. Red Carp, let me ask you, why did you attack those islands for no reason? The flaming seal had been contracted by Lai Yan, so it had no choice but to tell her the whole story. Yoon Chujiu was dumbfounded when she heard it. Was it because of that? Lai Yan had been forced to attack the islands by the sky fire. As a result, only a small number of fish survived in the area where the flaming seal lived. Lai Yan was facing a huge problem, which was the source of their food. Therefore, they had no choice but to go to the area outside of the sky fire to hunt. Then, there was a problem. These islanders relied on fishing to survive, and this caused a conflict of interest with Lai Yan and Lai Yan. Lai Yan and Lai Yan went to the islands to cause trouble because they wanted to drive these islanders out of the Sea of Fire. In this way, their food would be more abundant, and no one would fight with them for food. Yoon Chujiu thought that Lai Yan and Lai Yan were quite smart. The islanders were annoyed by Lai Yan and Lai Yan. They might even leave the Sea of Fire. Even if Lai Yan and Lai Yan did not leave, their attention would be diverted by Lai Yan and Lai Yan. They would have less energy to fish and Lai Yan would have achieved the goal. Thinking about it carefully, there was no right or wrong in this matter. The islanders wanted to survive, and the fire seals also wanted to survive. It was all up to their own abilities.
I'm the cream of the crop. I'm the cream of
857 online. All page, novel bin. When the miserable fire seal heard Yoon Chujiu's muttering to herself, it was really a little surprised. It thought that humans were all the same greedy and wanted nothing more than to exterminate all of the demonic beasts. Lai Yan, Lai Yan, Lai Yan, Lai Yan, Lai Yan, I can't believe this little girl thinks they're right. Yun Chujiu rolled her eyes, then let the red carp change direction. Lai Yan's SEAL group. The people on the big ship cried out in shock. What was wrong with this little girl? Was she going to die? At this moment, Da Hua had already disappeared. Yun Chujiu released Da Hua too to ensure that she had time to escape. However, this guy felt that he had to think of a way to release Da Hua directly in the future. Otherwise, he would have to release the little piglet of spiritual power every time. It would be a waste of time. Lai Yan was stunned when she saw Yun Chujiu return. However, when they saw that Yun Chujiu was riding the red carp, they were filled with righteous indignation and started to blame the red carp. Lai Yan, you traitor! At Novelban at. Lai Yan, you spineless fool! You let a human subdue you. Are you worthy of your ancestors? Exclamation mark quote. Lai Yan, not only did you betray us, you even became her mount. You are shameless. The red carp suddenly felt that it had nothing to live for. It did not want to do anything, all right. Besides, although the little girl used the giant pig to deal with them, she did not hurt them. Therefore, the little human girl was not that bad. It was not a big deal for her to temporarily become her mount. Yes, it was not a big deal. Although Yun Chujiu did not understand the contents of the Raging Flame Seal's roars, she could guess it from the reaction of the red carp. She sneered and said, Lai Yan, don't be afraid of me. All of you are so righteous. Come, those who are shouting the loudest, come here. I will establish a temporary contract with you. Aren't all of you willing to die? After I establish the contract, you guys can self-destruct for me. Come over. Lai Yan, my mother is calling me home for dinner. See you later. Lai Yan, what a coincidence. My mother is calling me home for dinner too. See you later. Lai Yan, Emma, what a coincidence. My mother is calling me home for dinner too. See you later. Lai Yan. The red carp saw that the fire seals on the other side were looking down on it. It suddenly felt that Yun Chujiu, the temporary owner of Lai Yan, had become much more powerful. Who is in charge here? Come out, I have something important to tell you, Yun Chujiu said to the group of fire seals. A few older fire seals swam over from behind. Although Yun Chujiu did not understand their words, with the red carp as a ready-made translator, she did not have any communication barriers. I feel that I have already shown you absolute kindness and sincerity. Otherwise, why would my Da Hua only tease you and not bite you to death? The fire seals collectively rolled their eyes at Yun Chujiu. Could you be any more shameless? You chased them away like stray dogs. You are still kind and sincere. Shameless. However, they also felt that what Yun Chujiu said made some sense. This human girl didn't really hurt them. What was her purpose? Are you guys guessing my purpose? I'm not an islander of the Raging Flame Sea, so I don't have any conflict of interest with you guys. Lai Yan, I'm not an islander of the Raging Flame Sea. On the contrary, I'm a very kind person. I want to help you guys reconcile with the humans. This is my motive, Yun Chujiu said with a smile. Chapter 2858 Online. All page, Novel Bin. Reconciliation. Can monsters and humans reconcile? Don't joke around. Lai Yan's group of seals rolled their eyes again. Yun Chujiu continued with a smile, I know that the reason why you are harassing the humans is for food. Bring me to your living area and I will check the sky fire. Perhaps I can extinguish some of the sky fire. In that case, the remaining sky fire can still be your defense barrier. Moreover, as the sky fire decreases, there will be more fish, so you don't have to be on the same level as the humans. Of course, you can disagree. However, This is your only chance. Otherwise, if you really provoke the humans and they unite to seal the sea surface, you will starve to death. Moreover, if you attack the islanders frequently, your cultivation time will be greatly reduced. It is not worth the loss. After an hour of Yun Chuju's Lai Yan, the leaders of the Raging Flame Seals decided to give it a try and bring Yun Chuju into their territory. They felt that this would bring them no harm. Although this little girl was abnormal, she would not be able to play any tricks in their territory. After Yun Chuju and Lai Yan had finished discussing, she rode on the red carp and swam to the big ship. She said to the crowd, "I want to follow Lai Yan and Lai Yan to their nest. You guys wait here. Of course, if you have something urgent, just let my two companions wait for me." As Yun Chuju was quite far away from the big ship, the crowd didn't hear what Yun Chuju said. They were so curious that they wanted to die. What the hell? How could those fire seals coexist peacefully with Lai Yan? And they even agreed to let her go to their nest. Island Master Kang couldn't help but ask, "Miss Yun, those fire seals agreed to let you go to their nest. Why did they agree?" Yun Chuju said with a smile, "Why didn't they agree? I'm not going to hurt them. I'm just going to visit them." Island Master Kang. Weren't humans and demon beasts incompatible with each other? Weren't the Raging Flame Seals afraid that this little girl would Lai Yan? Wasn't this little girl afraid that the Raging Flame Seals would eat her? Island Master Kang and the others shook their heads. They felt that they didn't have enough brains. And Linchuan and Shangguan Hao tried to stop them but to no avail. They suggested that they should go with them. Yun Chuju waved her hand and said, "I can pass through the heavenly fire zone. You won't be able to. Just wait for me here. Don't worry, I know what to do." And Linchuan and Shangguan Hao knew that although Yun Chuju was bold, she wouldn't do it recklessly. Perhaps she already had a plan in mind, so they didn't insist. After a few words of advice, Island Master Kang and the others saw that Yun Chuju insisted, so they didn't say anything more. After all, they weren't related, so a few words of advice was already enough, at Novelbanatat. Therefore, Yun Chuju rode on the red carp, surrounded by the group of blazing sea seals, and headed toward the Sky Fire District. Lai Yan was not afraid of the blazing sea seals, but she was afraid of them. As they approached the Sky Fire District, the temperature became higher and higher. As they approached the Sky Fire District, the temperature became higher and higher, and the fog became thicker. Fortunately, the blazing sea seals were familiar with the route, so they avoided the hottest part of the Sky Fire District and the Whirlpool District. Yun Chuju had the beads of Gui Kao and the water-repellent beads, so she was not afraid of the hot water at all. Besides, this guy also had the fire-repelling bead. Although these were hot air and not flames, the fire-repelling bead could still play a role. This guy was proud of himself. Did you see that? There were still benefits to being greedy for money. If she did not have these treasures, would she be safe and sound? Therefore, she had to carry out her greed to the end. Chapter 2859 Online. All page, Novel Bin. The Flaming Seals had originally planned to watch Yun Chuju's fun. They thought to themselves, "This little girl doesn't know the immensity of heaven and earth. She will definitely be scalded by the hot water and cry out loud. Let's see how she will be able to show off then." Lai Yan's eyes lit up. They did not expect Yun Chuju to be completely fine. She was still humming a little tune. She wanted to be more relaxed and at ease. The flaming seals that were gloating over Lai Yan's misfortune immediately wilted. This human little girl was not only a pervert with her spiritual beast, she was also a pervert. After passing through a few heavenly fire zones, Yun Chuju finally arrived at the living area of the flaming seals. This was a blue sea area with a few large reefs scattered around. The pups of the flaming seals were playing on it. It was indeed a paradise for the flaming seals. Of course, the only bad thing about this paradise was that all the F***-seeking fish had been eaten. Other than some aquatic plants, the rest of the food had been eaten by the Lian seals. The corner of Yun Chuju's eyes twitched. No wonder these foodies took the risk to go out and harass the islanders. They had no choice but to do so. Seeing that the Lian seals were so hungry that they began to gnaw on the grass, Yun Chujiu showed a rare kindness. In any case, there were many demon beast corpses in this storage ring, so she took out some and fed them to the Lian seals. The raging flame seals fully understood the saying, "A mother with milk is a mother," and Lian was a mother. The attitude of the raging flame seals, who originally despised the red carp, changed drastically. They changed from defensive hostility to flattery, and all of them swam around a certain Jew. The red carp was an honor. What did this mean? It meant that it was the one with the farthest vision. Those idiots actually denounced it. Tui. Idiots without foresight. Yun Chujiu discovered that the living area of the flaming seal was surrounded by heavenly flames. The west side was an island inhabited by humans, but what about the east side? Lian and Yun Chujiu were both shocked. Yun Chujiu explained her question, and the red carp mysteriously explained, "Master, there's a monster in the east." Yun Chujiu almost fell off the reef. A monster? You guys are clearly monsters, okay. The red carp saw that Yun Chujiu did not believe it. It became anxious. "Master, what I said is true. There's really a monster in the east. If we didn't have the protection of the heavenly fire, we would have been eaten by it long ago. Do you know why we don't have any fish here? One is that we can eat more, and the fish upstream were eaten by that monster." Yun Chujiu blinked her eyes. "You've been talking for a long time. What does the monster look like?" "The monster doesn't look like it," the red carp said seriously. Yun Chujiu was so angry that she almost kicked the red carp away. "What do you mean it doesn't look like it?" "The monster is just a cloud of fog, but after being wrapped by it, it will be eaten by it. We didn't know before that many of our companions were eaten by the monster. From then on, we didn't dare to go to the east. Actually, the area in the east is much larger than the area in the west. However, I reckon that the fish inside have been eaten by the monster. Fortunately, we have the protection of the heavenly fire. Otherwise, none of us would have survived," the red carp said with lingering fear. A mass of fog. Yun Chujiu frowned. She had once encountered a mass of fog. The Zumo she met in the Divine Axe Pit was just a mass of red fog. Could it be that the so-called monster in the east was a demon? At Novelbanat. Yun Chujiu felt that the doubts in her heart were getting deeper and deeper. Why did the demon that was said to have been extinct appear again and again? Could it also be related to the divine devil hall? Could it be that these heavenly flames were to suppress that demon? If that was the case, then the heavenly flames could not be moved. Otherwise, wouldn't it be terrible if the demon was released? Chapter 2860 online. All page, novel bin. Yun Chujiu was hesitant. Should she take the risk to see the so-called monster? Just as Yun Chujiu was hesitating, the shrill cry of the Lian seal came from afar. Yun Chujiu was stunned. She stood on the reef and looked into the distance. She saw a large group of Lian seals fleeing in panic. The red carp swam at the front. "Master, run, run. The monster actually passed through the seal of the heavenly fire. It has already eaten several of our companions." Yun Chujiu frowned. There was a cloud of black fog moving rapidly towards them from a distance, accompanied by the screams of the Lian seals. Some of the Lian seals were especially slow. They were the first to suffer. Seeing that Yun Chujiu did not move, the red carp urged her anxiously, Master, don't just stand there. Run. It'll be too late if you don't run now. Run. Where do we run to? If the heavenly fire can't stop it, where can we run to? I will go and meet the so-called monster. You carry me there. The red carp actually refused in its heart because it was afraid of death. If it was not afraid of death, it would not have run so fast. This was the result of many escape experiences. However, it did not dare to disobey Yun Chujiu's orders. It could only carry Yun Chujiu and swim towards the black fog. However, the speed of this creature was very, very slow. It could not swim as fast as those pups. It was almost as fast as rubbing against them. Yun Chujiu snorted coldly. If you continue to dawdle, all your companions will be eaten up. At that time, all the raging flame seals will be dead, and only you will be left. Do you think you will be happy? Lai Yan asked. The red carp gritted its teeth. Although it was still afraid, it still gritted its teeth and carried Yun Chujiu as it rushed towards the black fog at the fastest speed in its life when it thought of the companions it spent every day with. At first, the red carp was still afraid, but gradually, the courage in its heart gained the upper hand. Although it was in the opposite direction from the rest of the fire seals, and was the only one who went against the flow, Lai Yan was still afraid, but in its heart, there was a sense of mission and pride that it had never felt before. Although it was not sure if the human girl on its back could save its race, it had no choice but to do so. Other than the red carp, the few leaders did not escape either. They chose to stay where they were and would rather sacrifice themselves to protect the young. Yun Chujiu's heart was filled with an indescribable emotion. No matter if it was humans or beasts, when faced with danger, there would always be some people who would go against the flow, at Adnovelbenatat. It was either because of family ties or because of responsibility. Even though they knew that there was a bottomless abyss ahead, they would still go forward bravely without turning back. Yun Chujiu's body suddenly flashed with a dazzling light. This fellow had actually broken through because of an epiphany. After breaking through, this fellow's face was filled with confusion and bewilderment. She had broken through from the 5th level of the spiritual void tier to the 7th level of the spiritual void tier. Didn't they say that only lightning could break through? How could she break through just by thinking about it? Did this mean that she would be able to break through without lightning in the future? This guy was confused. The red carp she was riding was even more confused. Okay. Oh my God, what kind of pervert was it carrying? At such a critical moment of life and death, she actually broke through. It was simply unbelievable. The few flame seal leaders also looked at Yun Chujiu in confusion. Firstly, they were surprised that she did not escape, and secondly, they were also surprised that she had actually broken through. Lai Yan and Yun Chujiu had broken through to the 7th level of the spiritual void tier. The black fog stopped advancing temporarily and gradually transformed into a man in a black robe. The man looked very seductive. His eyebrows were raised, and he was indescribably charming. Chapter 2861 online. All page, novel bin. The man chuckled. I haven't seen a human woman in tens of thousands of years. You're quite good looking, so you can be my concubine. PFFT. You shameless old monster. Why don't you use the sea water to reflect your ugly appearance and still dream of marrying me? Tell me, what kind of demon are you? Yun Chujiu pouted. At Adnovelbenatat. The man exclaimed in surprise, I really underestimated you. Do you know that I am a demon? Humph. Only a demon can look like you. Don't dawdle, what kind of demon are you? Why didn't you stay in the cell obediently and run out for? Yun Chujiu asked half seriously and half tentatively. I am a succubus. From your words, have you seen other demons? The succubus asked in surprise. I haven't seen many either. It's just some Zhu Mo, Sha Mo, Tan Mo, Ying Mo, and so on and so forth. I kill every single one I see. People give me the nickname Professional Demon Slayer, Yun Chujiu said smugly as she hugged her shoulders. How would the succubus know that this guy was talking nonsense? He said in shock. What? You killed all of them? No, that's impossible. If we don't have any divine weapons, we can't kill demons. Besides, you're a trash at the 6th level of the Lingshuan realm. How can you kill us demons? At this point, the succubus felt that something was wrong. Ah, that's right, this little girl had just broken through. Why didn't her spiritual power level break through? How was this possible? Yun Chuju's heart skipped a beat. Other than Zhu Mo, the names of those demons were all nonsense. Could it be that there really were these demons in the Immortal Origin continent? No, she had to think of a way to find out where these demons were hiding. TSK. It was not that I was bragging, but the place where you were hiding was not easy to find. The places where those demons were hiding were simply too obvious, okay? Take Zhu Mo for example. He was hiding in the Divine Axe Heavenly Pit. He was simply stupid. And that Sha Mo, he was hiding in, Yun Chujiu said until here, it was as if she was stunned for a moment. That succubus did not know that Yun Chujiu was fishing. It said casually, Sha Mo was hiding in the Chankan realm, and you found him too. Che. The universe realm was nothing. Not only did I find him, but I killed him easily. And that greedy devil, the place where he was hiding was really Che. Although it was a bit unexpected, I still found him, Yun Chujiu said with a twitch of her lips. Greedy devil was hiding in the 5-colored relic tower. You found him too. No, impossible. The succubus was obviously shocked by the huge amount of information. Otherwise, she would not have failed to see through Yun Chuju's little trick. What is this? Ying Mo is even more unlucky. I just happened to wander around and accidentally met it. Then, I killed it. Tell me, which place did it choose to hide in? It actually hid in that thing. It's really unlucky. Impossible. Impossible. Ying Mo's hiding place is the most secretive. It's impossible for you to find it. Moreover, it can hide in a person's shadow. How could you find it? The succubus said in disbelief. Yun Chujiu snorted coldly. Secretive. How can that lousy place be called secretive? You're talking nonsense. Ying Mo is hiding in Zhuqian Valley. There's no. Just as succubus was about to continue, she suddenly realized something was wrong. What a cunning little girl. You're actually trying to trick me. But it doesn't matter. Don't even think about leaving here today. I'll eat you after I've taken your Yuan Yin. Succubus said in anger. She spat out a mouthful of black mist at Yun Chujiu. Chapter 2862 Online. All page, novel bin. After the succubus spat out the black mist, it was certain that Yun Chujiu would be knocked out. However, the smug look on its face quickly turned into surprise. Why aren't you afraid of my succubus? Yun Chujiu did not have the time to waste with it. She summoned a group of piglets with spiritual power and pounced on the succubus. Like all unlucky people, the succubus ridiculed the piglets with spiritual power and then saw Da Hua, who was lazy. The succubus was dumbfounded. How could humans have such a strange spiritual beast? How could it become bigger after it manifested? Da Hua, attack. Kill it. Yun Chujiu felt that her Da Hua was invincible, so her face was full of confidence. However, although the succubus was caught off guard at the beginning, it quickly gained the upper hand. Da Hua quickly disappeared after being entangled by the black fog. Humph. Little girl, although your spiritual beast is somewhat special, in front of me, it's just like a child playing house. You'd better obediently follow me to avoid suffering physical pain. Yoon Choo-jiu did not expect that the invincible Da Hua would actually be unable to withstand a single blow from the succubus. This fellow's heart instantly lost its confidence. Although she had a large kitchen knife in her hand, it was clear that the large kitchen knife had yet to recover its true strength. It might not really be able to kill the so-called succubus. Moreover, since the succubus had broken through the seal of the heavenly fire, it meant that its strength had recovered a lot. The succubus rolled its eyes, and then a glimmer of light flashed in its eyes. Since the succubus was previously blocked by the heavenly fire, it meant that it was afraid of fire. However, the small flame was only a cub. It had to find an opportunity to hit the succubus. It had to let down its guard first. Therefore, Yoon Choo-jiu took out a bunch of ice talismans and threw them at the succubus. The succubus sneered, "You want to deal with me with such a low-level talisman? You're dreaming." Yoon Choo-jiu was stunned to find that the ice talismans she threw were turned into dust by the black mist of the succubus. This succubus looked much more powerful than Zhu Mo. It was really difficult to deal with. Yoon Choo-jiu threw out a bunch of explosive talismans, but they were still easily dissolved by the succubus. The succubus laughed maniacally. "Darn girl, if you still have any tricks, just use them. An ant like you actually said that you killed the demon. It's simply a fool's dream. I advise you to obediently follow me. In the future, when there is a day in the future, you will enjoy endless glory and wealth. Moreover, I am a famous handsome man in the devil world. Back then, the women in the devil world were all trying to curry favor with me. It is your honor that I have taken a fancy to you. Don't be unappreciative." Yoon Choo-jiu laughed so hard that she staggered back and forth. "Emma, I have seen shameless people, but I have never seen someone as shameless as you. You call yourself a handsome man with your ugly appearance. However, when is the day you say that there will be such a day in the future? Tell me, maybe you can convince me." The succubus sneered. "Stupid girl, you still want to trick me. I was just careless just now. Since you're so stubborn, I can only use some tricks." As the succubus spoke, her eyes were full of light, emitting a bewitching light. At Novelbanatat. The remaining flaming seals could not help but swim towards the succubus. Lai Yan was no exception. She carried Yoon Choo-jiu on her back and moved towards the succubus with an infatuated look on her face. Yoon Choo-jiu's face also revealed an infatuated look. There were even 2 streams of unknown liquid flowing down from the corner of her mouth. The succubus looked at a certain Jew's infatuated look and instantly felt a little disgusted. What was wrong with her? Chapter 2863 Online. All page, novel bin. He, handsome man. Come to me, I love you. A certain Jew wiped the saliva from her mouth and said pervertedly. The succubus suppressed the discomfort in her heart and waved at Yoon Choo-jiu. Come over. Follow me back. Today is our wedding night. Yoon Choo-jiu disliked the red carpet below and kicked it away. She said pervertedly, "Get lost. I'm going to fall into the arms of a handsome man." Yoon Choo-jiu's kick was very strong, and it sent the red carpet flying in an instant. Lai Yan kicked the other flame seals away one after another and muttered, "Get lost. Don't hinder me from getting close to the handsome man." A smug look appeared on the succubus face. She was just a little girl in the 6th layer of the Lingxuan realm. How could she resist my eye of charm? Just a moment ago, she looked like she wouldn't give in no matter what, but now she couldn't wait any longer. Yoon Choo-jiu quickly pounced in front of the succubus, her eyes filled with passionate adoration. "Beautiful man. Come, let's kiss first." The succubus was so shocked that she almost sank into the sea. Even the devil world didn't have such an unrestrained girl. This was too scary. However, such a passionate beauty should be more interesting. The succubus's eyes revealed a lustful look. She bent down and wanted to kiss Yun Chuju's lips. At this moment, Yun Chuju raised her right hand and the flame of the 10,000-year-old fire marrow gushed out. The succubus was still dreaming. She did not expect Yun Chuju to sneak and attack. She was burned by the flame and immediately let out a miserable cry. "I'll take your life while you're sick." Yun Chuju raised her big kitchen knife and hacked fiercely, and the succubus's scream became even more shrill. You actually didn't fall for my eye of charm. Not only do you have the 10,000-year-old fire marrow, but you also have the Heaven Punisher axe. Quote. Yun Chuju didn't say anything. She kept firing the flame and hacking. The few flaming seals also woke up. Although they knew that there was a limit to their help, they still spared no effort in spitting fireballs at the succubus. Lai Yan and the rest of the flaming seals also woke up. Although their fireballs were not as strong as the 10,000-year-old fire marrow, they were still much stronger than ordinary fire. Therefore, they could still be of some help. The succubus saw that the situation was not looking good and dived into the water. It thought to itself that the power of the 10,000-year-old fire marrow would be greatly reduced in the water so that it could escape. If it knew that Yun Chuju had the Heaven Punisher axe, it would not have provoked her no matter what. It was so regretful that it wanted to vomit blood. At. As expected, the power of the small flame had weakened a lot in the sea. The succubus seized the opportunity to flee into the distance. The succubus was extremely fast. Yun Chuju could not catch up at all. This fellow knew that if he did not kill it this time, it would be a disaster when it returned. This fellow was also anxious. He exerted force with his right hand and the kitchen knife flew out with a whoosh. This guy regretted after throwing it. Damn it, it was not a throwing knife. How could this work? If he did not let the succubus take the kitchen knife away again, he would lose more than he gained. This guy watched helplessly as the kitchen knife started to fall after flying for a short distance. Obviously, it was impossible for him to catch up with the succubus. This guy sighed. Sigh. I thought I could kill the enemy with a throwing knife. It seems impossible. Before Yun Chuju finished her sentence, a red light flashed on the kitchen knife and it suddenly sped up and slashed at the succubus. The succubus let out a shrill scream and the black fog instantly dissipated into the sea, as if it had never existed. Before Yun Chuju could celebrate, she saw the kitchen knife sink into the sea. Chapter 2864 online. All page, novel bin. Yun Chuju quickly swam over and picked up the large kitchen knife. This guy was stunned to find that there was actually a crack on the large kitchen knife. Immediately, this guy's heart skipped a beat. It was over. Was the large kitchen knife going to die? There was already a gap, and now it was cracked. Didn't they say that this was the Heaven Punisher divine axe? How could it crack? This guy's heart ached. Tears almost fell from his eyes. The large kitchen knife was a good treasure for traveling at home. He didn't expect it to die now. But this guy had no choice. He couldn't take it to the blacksmith's shop to repair it, right? Yun Chuju had no choice but to put the large kitchen knife into her storage ring. She said that she didn't have the time to get a knife case. When she finished settling the people on Chessboard Island, she really had to get a knife case. Several leaders of the Lai Yan Seal saw that the monster that troubled them was dead, simply happy don't want. Due to the heroic performance of the red carp, several leaders also spare no effort to praise, as long as a few years, this guy is also expected to be a leader. Yun Chuju rested for a while and decided to dive into the sea to see the sky fire. Now that the succubus was dead, the sky fire only needed to leave a few spots for Lai Yan to hide. It would be best if the rest of the sky fire could be disposed of. Only then would there be more fish and sea beasts in the sea of fire. Only then would Lai Yan be able to satisfy the needs of the islanders and Lai Yan. Yun Chujiu chose a relatively weak sky fire and carefully dived close to take a look. It was indeed a huge whirlpool with hot air rising continuously. Where did the hot air come from? Yun Chujiu circled around the whirlpool a few times but still didn't find anything new. This guy decided to forget about it and not take the risk. Anyway, the blazing dolphins could hunt in the east in the future and wouldn't have any conflicts with the islanders. After discussing with Island Master Kang and the others, they should be able to carve out an island for the people of Chessboard Island, at Novelban. When Yun Chujiu thought of this and was about to leave, she found that the sand at the bottom of the sea started to churn, the whirlpool became smaller and smaller, and the temperature of the sea became lower and lower. Not long after, the whirlpool actually disappeared. Almost at the same time, all the heavenly flames disappeared. Yun Chujiu. Did she not do anything right? This was great. The blazing dolphins probably hated Lai Yan to death. Once the heavenly flames disappeared, they had no defensive barrier. The islanders had to kill them all. What a sin. Just as Yun Chujiu was feeling frustrated, the red carp swam to her side and said loudly, "Master, did you destroy the heavenly flames?" "It really wasn't me. Listen to me. I did save you before, but I really didn't destroy the heavenly flames." Yun Chujiu was afraid that the flaming seal would hold a grudge against her, so she kept explaining. "Master, you don't have to say any more. I know you're very low-key. Who else can extinguish the heavenly fire other than you? Don't be humble. It really wasn't me." "Master, are you afraid that we'll lose our defensive barrier and hold a grudge against you?" "Don't worry. There's an underwater volcano at the end of the Sea of Flames. We'll move our home there. When that happens, we won't be afraid of being attacked by others and we won't be afraid of having nothing to eat." "That's great," Lai Yan said. "Oh right, Master, did you really say that you didn't do it?" "Ah, then what? I was joking with you. Of course, I was the one who extinguished the heavenly fire. Other than me, no one else has the ability to do it," a certain Jew said shamelessly. This fellow guessed that the heavenly fire should be a spell formation to suppress the succubus. Since the succubus was dead, the spell formation was ineffective. Therefore, it was only natural that the credit should go to her. Chapter 2865 Online. All page, Novel Bin. Lai Yan's group of raging flame seals was even more grateful to Yun Chujiu than the sea. They felt that they should express the gratitude. After thinking about it, they decided to give the red carp to Yun Chujiu. Yun Chujiu declined tactfully. She already had enough spiritual pets now. She didn't want to take them anymore. It was very expensive to raise one. Okay. After the red carp was rejected, it was quite depressed. It suddenly felt that the whole leopard was not good. It was being despised. It was so sad. "Red carp, I am doing this for your own good. If you follow me, how will you marry a wife? Don't worry. I will come back to see you when I have the chance. I hope that you can follow a bunch of baby seals when the time comes," Yun Chujiu said with a smile. The red carp was instantly cured. Yes, it was more important to get a wife. The direct result of this incident was that the red carp began to pursue the mother of the Lai Yan seal crazily, and then it kept on giving birth. After dealing with the Lai Yan seal, Yun Chujiu returned to the big ship. At this time, Island Master Kang and the others on the big ship had already treated Yun Chujiu like a god. Oh my god, did she really extinguish the heavenly fire? How was this possible? Yun Chujiu was too lazy to explain. Anyway, Even if she denied it, these people would not believe it. As for the succubus, there was no need to tell them about it. If she did, it would only cause trouble. Lai Yan and the rest of the group of blazing sea seals had already migrated to the depths of the blazing sea, so a large area of the sea had been opened up. Yun Chujiu picked an island suitable for humans to live on and let the people of Chessboard Island live on it. Island Master Kang and the others naturally couldn't raise any objections. The matter of the people of Chessboard Island had been completely resolved. The people of Chessboard Island felt that their heavenly daughter was simply omnipotent. When Yun Chujiu left, all of them wept bitterly and were extremely reluctant to part with her. Yun Chujiu also shed a few drops of crocodile tears before she left the Sea of Raging Flames. Lai Yan had also left the Sea of Raging Flames. After this fellow boarded the spaceship, he changed his usual temperament and closed his eyes to rest whenever he had nothing to do. And Linchuan and Shangguan Hao were very puzzled and wondered what happened to junior sister Ju. Was she injured, or was it a blow? The two of them decided to divert Yun Chuju's attention, so they said, "Junior sister Ju, let's play cards." And Linchuan took out a card and said, "It's boring, you guys play." A certain Ju continued to sit on the recliner with her eyes closed. "Junior sister little Ju, let's have hot pot," Shangguan Hao suggested. "At Novelban at. I'm not hungry. If you guys are hungry, you guys can eat." A certain Ju still didn't open her eyes. And Linchuan and Shangguan Hao looked at each other. Oh no, the problem was serious. Junior sister little Ju wasn't even interested in cards and hot pot. This was too abnormal. Something must have happened. Little ninth junior sister, what's wrong with you? Say something. You're too scary. And Linchuan was burning with anxiety. Such a quiet little ninth junior sister was not even as good as that troublemaker junior sister. At least he felt at ease looking at her. Yun Chujiu closed her eyes and said faintly, "I'm fine. I'm meditating on the principles of life." And Linchuan's eyes widened. He tried to persuade her earnestly, "Junior sister Ju, you're not trying to become a monk after seeing through the secular world, are you? Don't do it. Although you usually don't look like a lady, although you're not gentle at all, and although most people wouldn't choose a lady like you as their wife, there are still some blind people who would choose you. You'll marry out." A certain Jew opened her eyes immediately. "You're the one who can't marry out. Your whole family can't marry out. Get lost. Get as far away as possible." Chapter 2866 Online. All page, novel bin. And Linchuan didn't get angry after being scolded. Instead, he clapped his hands and said, "Junior sister Ju, you're finally back to normal. Emma, you looked so scary before." Yun Chujiu glared at him. "I'm already normal, okay. I'm having an epiphany." And Linchuan. Shangguan Hao. Epiphany. What kind of joke was this? An epiphany required time. Some people would never have the opportunity to have an epiphany in their entire lives. This guy was just going to lie here and have an epiphany. And Linchuan pursed his lips and said, "Junior sister Ju, I think you're confusing an epiphany with a wild imagination. You're just wasting your time." Yun Chujiu jumped up from the recliner and chased after An Linchuan. "You're either cursing me for not marrying off or saying that I'm having wild imagination. I'll show you little Ju's shadowless feet today." And Linchuan rushed out of the cabin while screaming. Yun Chujiu chased after him while shouting and shouting. Shangguan Hao shook his head with a smile. It was only normal for little Ju to be so lively. A certain Jew's plan of epiphany had completely failed after being interrupted by An Linchuan. This fellow also knew that epiphany was something that could only be encountered by chance and not sought after. He had only tried it before. Once Yun Chujiu returned to normal, the flying spirit tool became lively again. While the three of them were cultivating, they played cards and chatted. It felt like time flew by quickly, at Novelban at. In the blink of an eye, nearly half a month had passed. The flying spirit tool flew to a place called Sky High Cliff. The flying spirit tool fell to the ground uncontrollably. Yoon Choo-jiu and the other two were shocked. They quickly opened the cabin door and jumped down a few feet from the ground. Only then did they not fall to their deaths. Yoon Choo-jiu's mind raced. She was afraid that this was a no-fly zone. That was why it was like this. Just as she thought of this, many people from the Divine Devil Hall rushed out from all directions. At a glance, there were hundreds of people. Yoon Choo-jiu's heart sank. It seemed that the Divine Devil Hall had invested a lot this time. They had to kill her. Otherwise, they would not have mobilized hundreds of people to kill her. Although Yoon Choo-jiu's heart was in a mess, she still looked calm and collected. She glanced at the people from the Divine Devil Hall and said, "Leader, come out and talk." A golden masked man walked out with a sneer. "Yoon Choo-jiu, you've ruined the Divine Devil Hall's major events time and time again. Today is the day you die." "Io. Your voice sounds familiar. Could it be that you're the coward who ran away from the Yuan killing sect last time?" A defeated general doesn't have the courage to speak. If I were you, I would have found a piece of tofu and killed myself. Yet, you still have the nerve to come out and show off. Shameless. Yoon Choo-jiu pouted and said. The gold-masked man immediately became angry out of embarrassment. "Stupid girl. Don't be proud. Not only is flying forbidden here, but talismans are also useless. I want to see if you still have any ability. Die." As the gold-masked man spoke, he released a spiritual tiger towards Yoon Choo-jiu. Furthermore, he brought along 2 spiritual leopards and pounced towards Yoon Choo-jiu. Yoon Choo-jiu was calculating in her heart as she released her spiritual piglet to fight. Although Da Hua was powerful, there were hundreds of people on the opposite side. It was impossible for him to defeat them. No matter how abnormal the little flame and the big kitchen knife were, she could not kill a few of them alone. Even if she was tired, it would exhaust her to death. At most, the Great Void Mystic Realm would send her into it. What about An Linchuan and Shangguan Hao? Use the Guai Cow to summon the demon beasts. This was a way to kill 1,000 enemies at the cost of 800. Moreover, she might not be able to hold on until the demon beasts arrived. Yoon Choo-jiu thought for a long time, and there was only one way, and that was to crush the jade token that Dai Biming gave her. Chapter 2867 Online. All page, Novel Bin. In fact, Yoon Choo-jiu did not want to use this jade token easily. Although Dai Biming said it was easy, she was not stupid. She knew that splitting out such a wisp of spiritual sense would harm Dai Biming, so unless it was a last resort, she did not want to use it. Yoon Choo-jiu gritted her teeth and held on for a while longer. If it really did not work, she would crush the jade token again. At this moment, Da Hua had already appeared out of nowhere. The people of the Divine Devil Hall cried out in surprise. They had never seen such a big spiritual beast, and it was actually a pig. The spiritual tiger and the 2 spiritual leopards of the golden masked man were instantly terrified. Although they didn't disappear, they were still hesitant and looked extremely afraid. Yoon Choo-jiu regained some confidence in her heart. Perhaps Da Hua could hold on for a while, but she would wait and see. At Novelban at. Da Hua. Attack. Kill him. Yoon Choo-jiu shouted as she used her spiritual needles to attack the golden masked man. Da Hua had suffered a serious blow from the succubus. Now that he finally had a chance to redeem himself, he naturally spared no effort. He stomped on the 3 spiritual beasts that were huddled together and opened his mouth to bite the golden masked man. The golden-masked man hurriedly dodged and then roared at his subordinates, "Are you all dead? Why aren't you doing anything?" Exclamation mark quote. Only then did the people from the Divine Devil Hall come back to their senses. One after another, they released their spiritual beasts and pounced towards Dahua, Yunchujiu, and the other two. Although Dahua had bitten and thrashed away many spiritual beasts, it also dissipated very quickly on its own. Yunchujiu quickly released another batch of spiritual piglets. Dahua the second charged out again. Yunchujiu gritted her teeth. She couldn't hold on any longer. It seemed that she could only crush the jade token. Yunchujiu crushed the jade token hanging around her neck with force, but nothing happened. This fellow was so angry that he almost lashed out. "Gigolo, you tricked me." While this fellow was lashing out angrily, he finally heard the voice of a certain god, "Do you all want to die?" The voice was filled with immense pressure and the people from the Divine Devil Hall could not help but stop their attacks. Some of the weaker ones even knelt on the ground. At this moment, Dai Baiming's figure appeared in front of everyone. However, it was not a physical body but a phantom. "Either get lost or die. It's your choice," a certain Jew said coldly. A certain Jew felt that her pretty boy was simply too cool and domineering. Too cool. This guy secretly decided to memorize this sentence and save it for later to show off. The voice of the Jin Mian person trembled slightly as he asked, "You, who are you?" "This venerable one has already given you the chance to choose. Since you didn't get lost, then you want to die. This venerable one will grant you your wish." After that, the figure of a certain venerate appeared before Jin Mian like a ghost. With a single palm strike, Jin Mian died. After that venerate killed Jin Mian, he shuttled through the crowd a few times, causing more than half of the people from the Divine Devil Hall to die. The remaining people didn't even have the time to run when the figure of a certain venerate appeared before them. After a short moment, other than the corpses on the ground, it was as though nothing had happened. The figure of a certain someone had already become very faint. He walked in front of Yunchujiu and glared at her. "I told you to cultivate properly and not get into trouble. Why didn't you listen? What are you waiting for? Why aren't you leaving this place before I disappear?" Exclamation mark quote. Yunchujiu glanced at the storage rings on the hands of the Divine Devil Hall members. Although she felt a little pained, she was afraid that a certain someone would flip out, so she followed the figure of a certain someone and ran forward. Chapter 2868 Online. All page, Novel Bin. And Linchuan and Shangguan Hao were dumbfounded. They thought they were dead for sure today. They didn't expect little Ninth junior sister to have such a great weapon. Oh my god, who is this person? It looks like it's just a strand of spiritual sense, but a strand of spiritual sense can be so powerful. If this was the real me, wouldn't it be awesome? From the way he spoke, why did it feel like little Ninth junior sister was in love with him? And Linchuan suddenly remembered what he had said. Only the blind would marry her. He immediately felt a cold breeze at the back of his neck as he prayed in his heart. Junior sister Little Nine must never mention this when she sees this fiend in the future, otherwise, he would not be able to save his little life. The group ran all the way until they finally left the vast horizon before Dai Baiming's figure disappeared. At the same time, Yunchujiu's storage ring began to tremble. Quickly leave that place and take a detour back to the primordial chaos sect. Since the Godfiend temple wants to kill you, they probably have other plans, a certain someone said sternly. He had wanted to protect Yunchujiu, but the distance was too far. By the time he arrived, it would be too late. After Yunchujiu obediently agreed, she took out the map to check. The route they chose was the closest. If they were to take a detour, there were several options. Yunchujiu's gaze finally landed on one spot, Pointing there, she said, "We'll go around here and then walk like this, like this." And Lin Chuan's eyes widened. "Junior sister Xiao Ju, are you sure? That's the Kanglin's snow mountain. It's said that the environment there is very harsh, and it's difficult to move. Are we really going to pass through the Kanglin's snow mountain?" Yun Chujiu nodded her head firmly. "It's precisely because of the harsh conditions of the Kanglin's snow mountain that we have to go through here. The people of the Divine Devil Hall must be thinking the same as you. They think that we won't go through the Kanglin's snow mountain, so it's the safest place. As for the harsh conditions, you don't have to worry. I have my own ways." Although Lin Chuan and Shangguan Hao still had reservations, they still followed Yun Chujiu to take a detour to the Kanglin's snow mountain. When the three of them reached the foot of the Kanglin's snow mountain, they already felt a bone-chilling chill. And Lin Chuan was shivering from the cold. "Junior sister Xiaojiu, why don't you think about it again? This place is a no-fly zone. We can only climb over on foot. Even if there are no demonic beasts, the cold will freeze us to death." Yun Chujiu threw two big cloaks to the two of them. She herself was not cold because the small flame kept heating up. After the two of them put on the cloaks, they suddenly felt warm all over. And Lin Chuan touched the cloaks with his hands and said, "Junior sister Xiao Ju, what kind of demon beast's fur is this? The effect of keeping warm is too awesome." Yun Chujiu curled the corners of her mouth and did not say anything. Suddenly, Shangguan Hao sniffed and stumbled, almost falling to the ground. This can't be nine. Shangguan Hao was so excited that he could not even speak clearly. He could not believe that the cloak that Yun Chujiu casually threw at them was actually the fur of the legendary nine-tailed fox. Although he had never seen the fur of the nine-tailed fox, there were records in the ancient books. It was said that the fur of the nine-tailed fox was as white as snow, and it had a distinct characteristic, which was the faint scent of sandalwood. At Novelban at. It was ironic that the nine-tailed fox was best at charm, but its body carried the scent of sandalwood in front of Buddha, so Shangguan Hao remembered this very clearly. "Senior brother Shangguan, don't care what kind of fur it is. Let's hurry so that the Divine Devil Hall doesn't react. By the way, these two cloaks are only for you. Don't break them. Otherwise, the guy you saw before won't forgive you," Yun Chujiu said coldly. Chapter 2869 Online. All page, Novel Bin. When Lin Chuan and Shangguan Hao heard Yun Chujiu's words, they immediately shifted their attention from the cloak to a certain person. And Lin Chuan asked with a cheeky smile, "Junior sister Little Ju, who is that person? His spiritual power is too powerful, isn't it? Just a wisp of spiritual sense is already so powerful. If he is a real person, wouldn't he be invincible in the world?" Yun Chujiu glanced at him. "He is the one you said has no eyes. If there is a chance, I will pass on your words to him." And Lin Chuan was terrified. "Junior sister Little Ju, don't. Senior brother has always been honest with you. You can't harm senior brother. Senior brother hasn't married yet. I don't want to see the king of hell so early." At Novelban at. The three of them chatted and laughed as they headed deeper into the snow mountain. As their bodies weren't cold, they felt that the snow mountain wasn't as scary as they had imagined. However, as they went deeper into the heart of the snow mountain, the snow on the ground became thicker and thicker. It became more and more strenuous for the three of them to walk, and they could not help but gasp for air. Yun Chujiu narrowed her eyes. It was too tiring to walk like this. It was best to get a few mounts. Why were there no demonic beasts that came to their doorstep? Just as this fellow was thinking, the roar of a beast came from afar. This fellow was happy. The mounts had arrived. The three miserable mountain-shaking snow bears were tricked into becoming the mounts of the three of them in a muddle-headed manner. As a result, The three of them had a much more comfortable life. The three of them rode on the back of the bear. Firstly, they did not have to work hard to leave on their own. Secondly, when they encountered a snowstorm, they could even hide in the long fur of the mountain-shaking snow bear. Lastly, they could even shelter themselves from the wind and keep warm when they slept at night. It was simply wonderful. The three of them were extremely happy. The people from the Divine Devil Hall who had followed them from behind were simply out of luck. They had originally blocked off a few passageways for Yun Chujiu to return to the primordial chaos sect. However, they did not expect that neither the left nor the right had come. Finally, through some clues, they determined that the three of them had chosen to cross the Kanglan Snow Mountain. The people from the Divine Devil Hall all thought that Yun Chujiu and the other two were crazy. The environment of the Kanglan Snow Mountain was extremely harsh. Not only was the weather extremely cold, but demonic beasts were also rampant. Were they crazy? The people from the Divine Devil Hall naturally did not want to follow them into the Kanglan Snow Mountain. However, the higher-ups had given their lives. This time, they wanted to kill Yun Chujiu no matter what, so they could only bitterly follow them into the Kanglan Snow Mountain. They did not have the overcoats of the nine-tailed fox to keep them warm, nor did they have the mountain-shaking snow bear to carry them. Each step they took left a deep footprint as they chased after them bitterly. At this time, a certain Jew had already arrived at the halfway point of the Kanglan Snow Mountain. She stood on the back of the mountain-shaking snow bear and looked down. She saw several slowly moving black spots. This fellow blinked his eyes. It seemed that the people of the Divine Devil Hall had come to chase after them. Rather than letting them chase after them, it was better to kill them. Therefore, this fellow began to recruit soldiers and horses. Of course, the soldiers were all demon beasts from the Snow Mountain. Regardless of their size or the level of their spiritual power, they were all collected. Then, they set up an ambush circle and waited for the arrival of the people of the Divine Devil Temple. The people of the Divine Devil Temple did not know that Hei Shinjiu had already set up a trap. It was no wonder. They had never heard of any prey setting up a trap to deal with the hunters. Therefore, the people of the Divine Devil Hall were not prepared at all. They were killed completely by the demon beasts that had set up an ambush. Yun Chujiu watched coldly from the side. Want to kill her? Dream on. This time, this guy did not waste the opportunity to make a small fortune. He kept their storage rings and continued to move forward. Junior Sister Xiaojiu, since the people of the Divine Devil Hall have chased to the Snow Mountain, I'm afraid they have already set up an ambush near the Snow Mountain. What should we do next? Shangguan Hao said. Chapter 2870 Online. Yun Chujiu frowned. The Divine Devil Hall had really put in a lot of effort this time. It seemed like they would not stop until she was dead. It was likely that there would be ambushes along the way, not just around the snowy mountains. Yun Chujiu rolled her eyes. Let's go. We'll go back the same way we came. This is called, there is reality in the illusion, and there is emptiness in the reality. The illusion is real, and the reality is real. Those idiots from the Divine Devil Hall will not be able to figure it out. And Linchuan and Shangguan Hao were stunned at first, then they gave her a thumbs up. Junior Sister Little Jew, you're really too smart. The people from the Divine Devil Hall would never have thought that we would go back the same way. Their people must have been waiting for us at the foot of the Snow Mountain. Who would have thought that we would go back the same way? Ha ha ha. And Linchuan was now completely in awe of Yun Chujiu. The three of them directed the mountain-shaking snow bear to return by the same route. When they reached the foot of the Snow Mountain, Yun Chujiu gave the three mountain-shaking snow bears some medicinal pills before swaggering out of the Snow Mountain. Yoon Choo-jiu rolled her eyes and found a flying spirit tool from the storage rings of the people from the Divine Devil Hall. After refining it, the three of them followed the original route back to the primordial chaos sect. The people from the Divine Devil Hall had been lying in ambush on the other side of the snow mountain. After waiting for a few days, they still did not see Yoon Choo-jiu and the other two. They wondered if the three of them had already lost their lives on the snow mountain. Since there was no way to use the talisman on the snow mountain, they did not know that the group of people they were chasing had already died. They could only continue to stand guard near the snow mountain. At this time, Yoon Choo-jiu and the other two had already arrived at Ninghai City near the primordial chaos sect while humming a tune. The reason why Yoon Choo-jiu did not return to the primordial chaos sect was that this fellow was too greedy. Aunt Lee's food was extremely delicious. The food that this fellow had brought over had long been eaten up. Therefore, she planned to let Aunt Lee cook more delicious food so that she could eat it in the future. Moreover, she planned to match the large kitchen knife with a knife sheath so that she could carry the large kitchen knife with her at all times. This way, she would not be unable to take out the large kitchen knife due to the restriction of her spiritual power, at at. Ninghai City was the territory of the Hun Yuan sect, so the people of the Divine Devil Hall did not dare to show their faces here. Yoon Choo-jiu and the other two finally let out a sigh of relief. When the three of them arrived at the shop selling equipment, the shop assistant came over and asked, "Dear guests, what equipment do you want to choose? Let me introduce it to you." Yoon Choo-jiu took out the kitchen knife and said, "I plan to equip my kitchen knife with a knife sheath, the kind that you can carry with you at all times." The waiter, "Are you kidding me?" The waiter endured it and said, "Miss, if you want to put a knife cover on your kitchen knife, I suggest you go out and turn right to the grocery store." Yoon Choo-jiu suddenly had a short temper. Was her kitchen knife a kitchen knife? It was a demon-killing knife. Damn it, the kitchen knife had already been cracked, and now it was being discriminated against. This was simply intolerable. This fellow was purely venting his anger. He swung the kitchen knife and hacked the counter of the other shop. The counter shattered into pieces, and the waiter was instantly dumbfounded. The shopkeeper behind hurriedly ran out when he heard the sound. After asking for the reason, he berated the waiter and then said with a smile, "Miss, my waiter doesn't know how to speak, please calm down. There are many knife cases here, let me introduce them to you." Yoon Choo-jiu also knew that she was angry because of the crack on the big kitchen knife, so she didn't argue anymore. There were a lot of knife cases in this shop, but they could only be opened with spiritual power. It was no different from a storage ring. Yoon Choo-jiu also bought a bunch of defensive spiritual weapons to make up for her loss of composure before leaving the shop.
டிவி சீரியல்ல ஏதாச்சும் சர்ப்ரைஸ் இருந்தா ஆக்டர்ஸ்